Hello, everyone. I just want to pop in here and say um, the title's a little bit misleading, a tiny bit, but that is a point that he does make in this video. It's like an hour in though, and it's not good. If you want to click off, I get it. That's cool because I probably would too. But if you want to stick around for like 10 minutes just to see if you like this type of content from me, or if you like the way I talk or debate, please go ahead. And if you want to turn this on while you sleep, if you're weird like that, go ahead. If you want to go into this, I can't stop you. Do I want you to? No. Okay. No. No. That's so. I probably should not put this in. I'm doing it anyway. I don't care. Um. Yeah, that is a point he makes, and it's as dumb as it sounds. If you make it to the end, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Genuinely. I'll yap about that at the end too. So, we'll see. Hello. So this is gonna be different from one of my regular videos. Ignore the fact that my titties are out. That I probably can't say that within the first 30 seconds. I don't care. This is gonna be different from one of my regular videos. This is an unedited. I might edit it a little bit. Very unedited version of me reacting to something. Now I don't usually react to things, especially on YouTube. I don't even do that on Twitch. But I've I was watching this video and I got like 5 minutes in, and I made some good points, and I wanted to share that with people to show how good I can be at these sort of things. Now this is definitely more different from my regular content. Why are you loading? Oh God, that is a horrifying face. I just realized that he kind of looks like Rekid if he was a drug addict. Hold on, let me search up Rekid real quick. Oh, that's a full screen. Gert. uh, Rekid. Yo, hold up now. Let's see the. Yo, and this guy isn't trans. He's sexy, dude. No, like I'm straight as hell, but he's sexy. Look at that. Tell me you wouldn't if that thing had some tits. Enough sexually profiling. I don't know if that's a word of this 19-year-old. Um, God, man, that is a very feminine face. And then you just just have that. So, what the fuck are you doing? Get the hell out of here. Oh my God. I swear to God, bro, he was gonna sneak up on me to kill me or something.
I think if there's one thing we can all agree on, it's that we love debate bros. Everything in life is just more fun when it's a debate. If your girlfriend ever suggests going to a restaurant that you're not in the mood for, you shouldn't just suggest a different restaurant. No, you should destroy her in the marketplace of ideas and demonstrate to her how Olive Garden is an ontologically disgusting restaurant, and she doesn't even have the epistemic grounding to justify why she wants to go there in the first place. Trust me, bros, there is nothing that turns on women more than when you accuse them of engaging in logical fallacies. If you're
Absolutely agree, 100%. My girlfriend, I swear to God, it looks like she pisses herself every time I do that. If I just be like, no, you're a fucking dumbass. You're a dumbass. You don't have epistemic grounding. I don't even know what the fuck that means. I'm not gonna lie to you. You don't have epistemic grounding to say that it's good. It's just shitty. And you need to have my beliefs. Because if you don't, I'm gonna kill you in your sleep. And it's not gonna be fun. I'm gonna kill you in your. Okay. Oh, I muted it.
your girlfriend is ever like, why do you think it's okay to always call me fat? You should respond by saying, straw man, I never called you fat, I called you obese. Fat is a totally subjective label, whereas obese is an objective medical term. And hasty generalization, I don't always call you obese, I also call you a bunch of other things.
Holy shit, dude. Does anybody feel Ben Shapiro? I feel him. Like, I swear to God, if I close my eyes, I thought that was a script, or even just a thought that came out of Ben Shapiro's mind. I swear. That's crazy.
As you can see by pointing out
You don't have the epistemic grounding to say, oh my God. You don't have the epistemic grounding to say that Olive Garden is good. It's ontologically disgusting, and you are dumb. A piece of shit who loves the Jewish people. Oh, wait, he's Jewish. Who hates Jewish people.
out the flaws in her faulty logic, she now has no choice but to submit to me. This is how you demonstrate to women that you are truly a logic-brained alpha, which deep down is what they all desire. Deep down, what all women want is a debate bro who can demonstrate to them how, technically, rape is only bad for certain people.
It's bad for certain people.
No.
For certain people.
No, it's bad for everyone.
No, it's only bad for certain.
So I just want to take a look here. Let's zoom in real quick. This guy, he looks like, somebody I would slap the fuck out of. He looks like somebody who would get pegged, right? Oh man, it's hot in this. He looks like somebody who would get pegged. This guy looks like he would do the pegging. So, I mean, and that's his beliefs. And this is his. So I'm not saying that all the women have to go, holy voice crack, have to go for this guy. But if you want this guy who says rape is good for certain people, and he's definitely not one of those certain people that it's bad for, and this guy who says it's bad for everybody, and you wonder, I'm not going to go there. But you got to pick, maybe you're poison. If you guys think this guy's ugly as shit, I kind of think he's a little cutesy. He's got that build to him. Oh.
And if there's one type of person that
I'm
we
kidding.
all love
I'm kidding,
even
by the
more
way.
than debate bros, it's debate bros for Christ. What we need in 2025 is a Christian debate bro.
Shut up. I did not mention that. I mean, is this Juice WRLD? It looks like the outline of Juice WRLD. I did not mention. I mean, you probably saw it right here. But I am not a Christian. I don't believe in that. So I'm going to be mostly on this guy's side, but, except for a few parts. I've only watched about 5 minutes. Yeah, past the boom part, past that's about as far as I got. 5:58, I think, was the time. So, we'll get to it.
Who can craft the perfect logical syllogism to demonstrate once and for all why Jesus wants his followers to marry children.
The Bible does not specify a specific age for marriage.
Today we're going to be taking a look at a Christian TikTok debate bro by the name of Q-Top. Q-Top spends most of his time doing philosophical debates where he defends
I'm still focused on the point how that was not Juice WRLD.
Christianity on TikTok live streams. In these live streams, random people will join the live who clearly have no experience in debate or understanding of philosophy, and Q-Top will destroy them through incredibly convoluted arguments like how the triune nature of God proves that he's real because of the law of the principle of proportional causality.
Do you know what the law of principle of proportional causality is?
You don't know the law of the principle of proportional causality?
What are you, some dumbass?
What are you, some sort of dumbass?
Okay, I'm sorry. That was so cringy. Oh, that was so cringy. On my part. That was a good point for him. It was showing how he only really debates to make himself feel better that, oh, I'm smarter than you because I know the principle. I know the principle? No. The law of the principle of causality,
The
I
principle
think.
of proportional...
My bad. Proportional. Let's get that straight. Proportional causality.
people who thinks that like debate is an inherently bad thing. I actually do think that debate can be a good way to learn and explore new ideas, but I think these sorts of TikTok debates where you bring in someone who clearly has no experience with philosophy and then you bash them over the head with these incredibly convoluted philosophical arguments that they clearly aren't going to understand, and then you act like they're stupid because they don't understand what you're saying.
Dude, you're irrational. You're absurd.
It basically just serves to make whoever's doing the debate feel good about themselves because they can be like, well, I know about the law of the principle of proportional causality and you don't, so I'm clearly smarter than you and my position is clearly the correct one. But when you actually take the time to look
Which is
into
not
this
how
law
logic
of the
works.
principle of proportional causality,
Any perfection proposed by an effect must be proposed in equal or greater degree to its agent cause. By its agent cause. So, if I'm not a dumbass, some sort of dumbass, apologies. If I'm not some sort of dumbass, I think that he's trying to propose the argument that everything has a cause. Yeah, so any perfection possessed by an effect must be possessed by an equal or greater degree by its agent cause. Yeah, so everything has a cause. Therefore, if you go back to the very first cause, you need something that does not have a cause. Therefore, it is always the cause for everything. Therefore, God. Which makes sense, but it fails in a lot of aspects that I don't fully understand. So, it may look like a very sound argument. I'll read up on how it isn't, because I've looked into it and I know it's not. I know it's not. Bear with me. Listen, I know I haven't provided any evidence that it's not, but it is an old argument that has been disproven, uh, quantified to be wrong, quantified to be unfinished. Any of those things.
I don't think it actually proves what Q-Top is claiming that it proves, but obviously your average person on TikTok isn't going to know this, so you can just make yourself look like you've won the debate because you pulled out a complicated term that your average person won't understand. Now, I don't think these sort of TikTok debates are totally worthless. I'm a decently big fan of Parker and Dean, who also do these same sort.
And this is, another thing that I want to touch about this guy is, people who are having Q-tops, point of view, they look at this guy and they're like, oh, well, he's the guy who thinks Trump is bad for America because he watches this guy. This is the people who he supports, and I think those people are dumb. So, therefore, he must be dumb. Ooh, voice crack. Therefore, he must be dumb. Which, firstly, not how logic works. Secondly, it's how it works to them. And it will only further divide. It'll only drive reason for the fact that they don't want to listen to what you say and will ignore what you say, despite it having a lot of evidence to support it. No, despite it being logical. They will be like, oh, well, you think Trump is bad, or you support people who think Trump is bad, therefore you're irrational, therefore I don't need to listen to your very rational points because I already think that they're irrational to begin with. Because you have a different belief than me. And I think anyone who has a belief is irrational. Makes sense. I hope so.
Sorts of TikTok debates. In my opinion, the only real value that you get from these sorts of TikTok debates is humiliating people you disagree with. And I think that sometimes humiliating people you disagree with is a good thing. I think that it can be good to humiliate Trump supporters sometimes.
Again, this is only building walls within the people that you're trying to reach with this. Or not even necessarily trying to reach, but you're only building walls against people who have these beliefs. I mean, you're basically saying, oh, it's not okay when he does it because he has different beliefs than me, but it's okay when I do it because I have shared beliefs that it's okay to do that because they have different beliefs than me. It's hypocritical in nature, and I'm not saying that's what he's meaning, but I'm saying that's what it looks like to somebody who is already thinking you're irrational. That's practically the nail in the coffin 4 minutes into the video for people who don't think this is, or no, not don't think this is, for people who who have Q-Top's belief. Being Christian means you will protect most Christians in the Bible with everything you can, even if it is bad. I've had people literally protect the idea that rape is okay because it's in the Bible. Now, we can get into that all day. It's not directly stated into the Bible, but Deuteronomy 22, verse 28 through 29, it's talking about how if a woman is raped in a city where people are around to hear her, she is to be married to her rapist, and in no context at all is that okay throughout any time period, especially when your God is supposed to be above time, culture, and is supposed to be all good. In no way is forcing a victim to marry their abuser okay in any way. Even if they do not get to see that person at all throughout their entirety of their life, they are still married to them, and they are still unable to divorce them. That's in the Bible, and people have protected it because it's in the Bible, ignoring their natural instinct to say that that is wrong because they are a part of the Christian community. So they will just automatically shut out anything that is against their beliefs because somebody who has similar beliefs thinks it's okay. And that's not how it works.
times. But the purpose of these TikTok debates where you're talking to random people who have no experience in debate obviously isn't to come to some sort of interesting new understanding of ideas. No, it's just to dunk on people who you consider stupid. Q-Top claims that he does these debates because he just cares about spreading God's word. And we all know that the best way to spread God's word is by giving Q-Top money. And when people do give him money by sending him TikTok gifts, he gets very excited.
And Christian coming in with the fireworks! And Christian with the money gun! Boom!
Now, I stream on Twitch daily. Not daily. Mondays and Fridays I do off, but that does not matter. I've gotten 0 donations as of now. And if I ever were to get a donation, I'd probably react like more than that. I'd probably take my pants off before I go start doing whatever the fuck he's doing. So, I mean, this is a normal reaction. I don't know, he's trying his hardest to make this guy look unreasonable when he doesn't even need to. I mean, that just fucking says it all. That says it all. That right there, that proves that he's irrational. You do not need to do that, show that in the video.
W's in the chat. W's in the chat. Is it with another galaxy? Boom. Boom. Boom.
Okay. Maybe that's a little, that's a little unreasonable. I'd probably twerk. I guess the farthest I go for a donation, I'd probably twerk. You know, this. How long does this? That's 15 seconds. Sorry for the nip slip. That's 15 seconds. Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness.
There's 20 seconds.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
I'd be tempted to.
Oh my goodness. Oh Lord. Oh Lord. Oh Lord. Oh Lord.
Now, you might be tempted to say that Q-Top is making himself look like an absolute lunatic when he freaks the fuck out like this for getting TikTok gifts, but you just don't understand. This is just what it looks like when the power of Christ is flowing through you. Some Christians speak in tongues, Q-Top speaks in booms.
Oh, we're so sorry to hear about your brother that passed away. He gets 5 big booms. Boom! 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 Boom!
There's nothing like watching a grown man scream and cry and lose his mind with the words, Christianity should be forced on children floating behind him. I definitely want this dude forcing religion onto my children. Q-Top not only does TikTok debates, but he also makes Christian rap music, which is really good.
See the look in my eyes, yeah, you know I've been through hell. We was getting packed sent, then we was getting straight through the mail. You can see the look in my eyes, yeah, you know I've been through hell. Yeah, and my soul, I will never ever.
I love this girl's dance.
Okay, yeah, no, I'm not even gonna talk about that girl, because what the fuck is this? You know, I'm not even hating on it because it's a Christian rap. I listen to Flyleaf. It's a Christian rock band. I have like 6 of their songs on my playlist, and I have like 30 songs on my playlist total. It's the only playlist I have. You know, I like Christian music. You know, despite me not being Christian and, you know, not liking the beliefs very much. That was just ass. You know, I don't listen to rap either. I can't say much on it, but that was just ass. I think Will Smith did better. In some parts it was worse, but Will Smith did better than that in some parts of his freestyle.
Dancing. This is literally me when I've been through hell.
We was getting packed sent, then we was getting straight through the mail. You can see the look in my eyes.
From what I've seen, Q-Top doesn't tend to be very good at staying on beat when he raps.
Covered by the blood, washed by the blood. If you ain't really, don't get offended. Yo, used to be folks on digits.
But I think him rapping off beat is actually meant to be a commentary on how in life Christ calls us to not walk on the beaten path when we follow him. In the parable of the sower in Mark 4:15, it says, "The seed that falls on the beaten path represents those who hear the message, but immediately Satan appears and snatches it from their hearts." And in the same way that Christ calls us to not walk on the beaten path, Christ calls Q-Top to not rap on the beaten beat.
Jesus Christ took me right out of trenches. Relentless, we used to hop over fences.
In order to promote his rap music, Q-Top posted one of the most insane videos that I think I've ever seen on TikTok.
So they
Oh,
got me in
God.
jail right now for all my parties. And to be honest with you, everybody likes Diddy's parties. You know, even more people came that nobody knows. And I'm going to share it with the public. But I'm going to tell you what everybody likes even more. Christian rap music. Click the link in the bio.
Oh my
So
fucking
to promote
god.
his own rap music, he posted an AI video of Diddy promoting it from jail. Why the fuck would you use AI to give yourself an endorsement from Diddy? Why?
I know. Diddy is popular. You know, not for good reasons, but he's popular. He gets views on any video that his face is in, and any video that his hashtag is in. You know? Oh my goodness.
Would you think this is a good idea?
Also, this is so fucking loud. Oh, my headphones are at 100. That's probably why.
Yeah. Oh, Diddy said that Q-Top's music is good. It must be good. I wonder if he'll end up posting like a AI Jared Fogle endorsing him. Man, I sure love diddling kids and eating the $5 footlong meatball marinara sub at Subway. But you know what I love even more? Q-Top's rap music. Click the link in the bio. Now, I know it might be surprising that someone who is this good at rapping can also be this good at being a debate bro, but Q-Top can do it all. Q-Top is everything you could ever possibly want in a debate bro.
He's the whole package.
Condescending.
Dude, you're irrational. You're absurd. You're absurd.
He's violent.
It's like this is your head, and I have to beat the truth into your head.
He's loud.
What?
And
First 2 parts, yeah, that's a reasonable criticism. Being loud doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad. Also, I don't have underwear right on. Okay, TMI. I do not have pantalones under my pantalones, and these pantalones have a hole in them. Anyway, I forgot what I was going to say. Yeah, being loud in debate just shows that you're passionate. Being rude and loud shows that you don't have anything better to say. Unless you do have something better to say, and you're just doing that to humiliate them, which is arguably worse. Actually, no. It's better, but it's still really fucking stupid and really fucking bad. Really bad. So don't do that, by the way. Always stay calm in debates. even when they yell at you. It only further shows how incompetent they are and how they can't provide actual evidence to the points. In some parts, it is okay to criticize them, saying you're dumb. Not necessarily you're dumb, just like you can't defend my points. You can't defend my points. You know it. I know it. But you still go on because you have this unbridled force of nature, placebo, placebo, that is, telling you to do this because I need to go to God. Is that really it? Is God telling you that? Or is your pastor telling you that so I can go and donate to his church? I don't know. That's something for you to talk about. Watch a video about Christian manipulation or indoctrination and towards children and adults, and see if you feel any relation to that. And then come back to me telling me that it's God, because I'm sure that it is not, and it is definitely just the people who taught you that, because that's how the Bible teaches them to teach you. To keep you in faith, to keep you in believing, to further fund the Catholic Church, or to further keep you in control. Moving on from that.
He's completely mentally unstable.
Guys, I am sitting right. You guys are watching me just lose my mind. I'm about to melt. Y'all, look at my face. You guys are watching me sit here and literally lose my mind.
But the one thing that proves that Q-Top...
I wouldn't say that's mentally unstable. That's more of a joke. I'd say that too if this guy was really dumb. If I'm debating somebody and they are just absolutely incompetent, not listening to any points that I'm saying, or just completely ignoring good points that I make, I'm going to be like, oh, dude, chat, I'm losing my mind. Dude, I can't do this for much longer. I'm losing my mind. Going insane.
Is a true
actually,
debate bro is the way that he makes arguments in defense of pedophilia. We all know that this is the mark of a true debate bro. Are you even a real debate bro if you've never argued why it's...
Excuse me. Bitch. What? Say that again. Hold on. Say that. No, I don't even want you to say that again. Bitch. What? I mean, you said creepiest debate, bro. Oh, don't move, fan. You said creepiest debate, bro. I did not. Okay. I might have to get my Among Us plushie back here, because what the fuck?
Totally normal to be attracted to 15-year-olds.
15, 16-year-old chicks that like look pretty fucking hot. Like I can't help that. Like some people mature fucking older.
Or in Q-Top's case, 12-year-olds. Let me take today's sponsor.
It got worse.
The dude we're looking at today believes that God is watching our every move and judging all of our actions, but...
Which, kind of, that's really weird. If he doesn't need to watch over your actions. He knows what you will do, because he's all-knowing. Okay, hold on. If he's also all-knowing, like he says he is, and that means... Stay with me now. He creates people knowing they'll suffer forever, knowing that he can't, that he just doesn't have to create them, which doesn't impede on the free will of people who don't exist, because you can't have free will if you don't fucking exist. And says that that's love. Okay, hold on. So if he knows you'll reject him, he knows that you'll go to hell, he knows that before you're created, has the power to not create you, still creates you. Stay with me, because he loves you. Just had to point that out.
You know who else is watching our every move and is way scarier than God?
I'm buttoning
Data
up my
brokers.
pants.
Data brokers are...
Shut the fuck up. I don't care about data brokers. Yeah, cool. A nice little fucking... I don't care, delete me. Literally...
And use code RyanBeard to get 20% off your
Don't use that
consumer
code.
plan.
Don't fucking
Thanks
use
again,
that code.
Delete me. Like I mentioned, about 2 years ago, Q-Top got into a controversy.
You will be banned from my birthday party if you use that code. And everybody who watches me is invited. Oh my god, I can't get these pants buttoned. God, my tits look small in this. It's okay, I'll wear a
child
dress next
marriage
time.
and defending sleeping with children, so he put out this TikTok to clear his name.
What's up, Christ Gang? I'm making this video to clear up false allegations on my name. A lot of people on the internet
Just had to throw in the cross right there, just had to put in a little fun fact, just throw that shit in there.
are
not
accusing
necessary.
me of being a P3DO. I just want to make this very, very clear. I am not a P3DO. So
That's something that every P3DO has said in their entire life. Something that every P3DO has said once in their life. Furthermore, if you defend sleeping with 12-year-olds, not even defend, no, if you defend it, that's being a pedophile. Look, listen here. Thought crimes are not good. They are never good. The Bible adds thought crimes. Thought crimes are not good. You cannot be, put in jail for thinking something. That's unconstitutional. That is borderline immoral. The Bible. The Bible, sorry. Whoever looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery in his heart. Adding thought crimes. So, also an immoral tactic. But he obviously doesn't think so because he worships at that shit. So, if we were to go by his rules, yeah, no, he would be convicted as a pedophile for thinking that it's okay to sleep with 12-year-old girls. But obviously that's not how the Constitution works, and that's not how America works. So, no, we cannot trial him for being a P3DO, but we can fucking look at him like one. We can fucking look at him like one.
it all started when I joined Parker's Live, and I was asked the question.
I want to know if you're saying that it's okay for you to sleep with a minor, someone who's 9, 8, 7, just because they hit puberty.
6, 7? Okay,
I want to
okay,
go
okay, that's fucking horrible.
to an objective standard, right? And the objective standard is, what does God's word say about this?
Got something
We
in my
need an
eye.
objective standard, guys. This
So, you kind of have to prove that your God exists before you say that he objects to anything or sets an objective standard. Because if you just say, oh, I murdered him because God told me to, without being to prove that your God exists, or, oh, that wasn't me who murdered him, it was the boogeyman, without being able to prove the boogeyman exists, you're gonna be convicted of murder. You're gonna be convicted of murder. You're a murderer. You're gonna be convicted of a murder. Sorry to say, that's how it fucking works. That's how logic and reason works. I mean, you're Christian, you might be opposed to that. So, either way, it's how the world goes around, buddy. Pal, Sigma, Alpha, Omega. I know I'm gonna get put in a fucking Christian edit where there's just Jesus as soon as I said Omega. It's gonna be, boom, Jesus on the fucking screen as soon as I say Omega. Oh, God, dude. That happens so often, by the way. Not me personally, just Christian edits in a Christian debate where somebody says something on the opposing side and they be like, oh, well, I mean, something about magic or anything about the Holy Ghost, and then boom, Jesus. It's weird. It's weird. We'll move on, though.
objective standard that it's bad to sleep with children because it harms them is totally worthless, and Q-Top is here to give us the objective standard.
Don't look at me with them bug eyes. God, I gotta fucking cover my... I can't even look at my OBS thing. So, my nip was out. So, I mean, that's really bad without context. So, say that to Q-Top, though.
Before we get started with that, I just want to make it clear. I prefer what the Bible prefers.
It seemed like that sentence was leading up to him saying,
So you prefer condemning people for being witches. You prefer the idea that giants exist. You prefer the idea that a donkey talks. You prefer the idea that a worldwide flood happened when there's only evidence to say that it didn't. So, who's really the unreasonable one here?
I don't prefer children, but no, it was just saying that he prefers whatever the Bible tells him to prefer. So I guess if the Bible told him to prefer 2-year-olds,
Indoctrination.
then that would just be what he has to prefer.
So, the Bible does not specify a specific age for marriage. The Bible gives two specific things that would imply that a female is ready to engage in sexual intercourse within marriage. Now, those two things are if the female is physically mature and if she is emotionally mature. Physically mature. What it's saying is the female has to have menstruated.
So, according to him, physically mature means that a child has menstruated. First menstruation typically occurs between the ages of 9 and 15, but for a child that goes through precocious puberty, it can happen as early as 8 years old. So, I guess some 8-year-olds are physically mature according to Q-Top standard. Not off to a great start here.
Emotional maturity. Now, what is emotional maturity? Is a female mentally ready or mentally capable of making that decision?
Okay,
As a
now
9-year-old.
we're talking about emotional and mental maturity, which is how most cultures determine the age of consent, so maybe we're on the right track here.
Different females obviously mature at different rates. What's really, really, really important about this thing, right?
Is what you decide is mentally mature. So if you think a baby's mentally mature, oh yeah, go ahead. Stick your dick in that thing. Okay. Stick your dick in that thing. You know, that's what the Bible says. No, it says physically mature. But still, either way, still implying that a 10-year-old is okay to sleep with. I don't have to tell you that that's wrong, right? Right? Good.
Is that you cannot put a specific age on it. That's why the Bible does not mention a specific age for marriage, right?
Okay, so because children emotionally mature at different rates, you can't set an age. I wonder if by following this logic, he also believes that you can't set an age where people become adults or can join the military or vote or drink or drive. I hope this you can't set an age shit doesn't only apply to having sex with children, because that would make you sound very sus. So obviously children mature at different rates. I wouldn't say that every 16-year-old is mature enough to drive at the age of 16, but because we need to have an age where people can drive, we generalize and set the age at 16 or at whatever age it is in your state. When you're crafting a society, you sometimes have to generalize when you're setting age limits, because what's the alternative? You just don't set an age where people are old enough to drive? Should we be asking God if a child is old enough to drive? Dear God, my son Timothy now believes that he is mature enough to drive. Please give me a divine sign if Timothy really is old enough to drive now. Well, no divine sign. I guess Timothy is fucked. So maybe instead of determining the age...
Timothy just can never drive, ever in his life, ever. You know? Now, even then, saying... People will make a divine sign out of nothing. You know, if your TV comes on, you know, even though it's your nan turning on the remote, they're just like, oh my god, Timothy, get your ass in my Ford Focus. We need to go on a drive right now. And if they're rational, and there's no sign, then Timothy's fucked. Timothy, you know, has to be driven everywhere. Actually, no, you know, Timothy nor you can drive because you won't have a divine sign. You know, to prove it right now, here, God, if you exist and you want to prove to me and millions, 10 at most, people who watch this, go ahead. You know, make something move in the back. Well, let's zoom in on this. Nothing fucking happened. Oh my god. Nothing fucking happened. You know, so your God decides, so he's like, yeah, I want a relationship with you, but I'm going to remove all the evidence that I exist. And I'm not going to give you any proof that I exist. So you just have to believe whatever I tell you, despite not having any evidence that I exist. But I want a relationship with you, bro. I swear. Makes a lot of sense. So instead of proving to me and a few other people here that he does exist, saving their souls from damnation, eternal suffering, by leading them to him, he just doesn't. He's just like, nah, I'm good. You know, this does not happen anytime that you pray for it, unless you make sure that it happens or you imagine it. This is the truth of Christianity. They make something out of nothing. And it's sad to watch your family members fall for this trap. It's sad to watch siblings, sad to watch even relatives or coworkers to fall for this trap because it is so incredibly hard to get out of, especially if you have the same beliefs that it's okay to fuck with 12-year-old because they're emotionally and physically mature. Yeah. So, whenever a belief becomes damaging, which it obviously is, it has been, it was used to justify the murder of thousands of women, hundreds of thousands of women for being witches. You kind of got to question it if it's okay to let people believe or if it's okay to enforce on the kids. Our government has said no. It's not okay to do that unless you pay for them to do that. Private schools. God, there's been something in my eye this whole time. Ugh. You know? What is that? Okay. We're getting off track. Let's continue.
Where children are old enough to drive by asking God. We should determine this by looking at things like psychological studies or car crash data. Generally, we determine the age where people are old enough to drive or old enough to have sex by looking at the stages of their brain development. And most people agree that a 12-year-old's brain is not developed enough to give informed consent.
Different females are emotionally mature at different ages, and different females are physically mature at different ages. Within ancient Israel context,
just say you want to fuck a 10-year-old, dude. It's not that hard. Look, if you want to say you want to fuck a 10-year-old because the Bible tells you to, that's okay. And that's what, that's because it's part of your religious beliefs. And women should also be denied prenatal care because they're unmarried because it goes against their religious beliefs. And, witches, people who are accused of being witches, should be tortured and murdered because it's their religious beliefs. This is a slippery slope that if we don't keep checked, will take over America and has taken over Europe at some point in history. This is not okay. No matter how much you want to spin it, saying, oh, the Bible says it's okay. The Bible says, Deuteronomy 22, verse 28, 29, says that it's okay if you don't make a noise during rape, that you have to marry that person. And you cannot divorce them. Is that okay? Does that make it okay? No. And the idea that it does, for lack of a better word, is dumb and retarded. Listen here. Retarded. With a capital fucking R. Retarded. It's dumb. And the fact that people don't see this because some God that they can't prove exists says it's okay shows a lot about this belief and shows a lot about how good it is for the state of our economy. Nope, for the state of our society. Got the word. For the state of our society. It's not okay. It can't be. It never will be. And despite that it was at some point, does not mean that it always is, and does not mean that it's okay for your God who is above culture and time to say it is. It was never okay. It will never be okay again. But if you keep doing this, it's going to be. And it's only going to serve to damage the lives of millions of women who just either can't say no, or say no when they don't know they're not ready. That's not okay. I don't know what to tell you. That's not okay.
We understand that females matured at a much younger age, right? The reason being is because there was much more responsibility on these females within society, within that culture, right? Nowadays, females mature way later in life.
So, Q-Top shows this screenshot explaining how in ancient Israel, girls were considered women at age 12. So, I guess 12 is the age where he thinks girls are old enough to consent as long as they've menstruated and they're emotionally mature, whatever
Whatever the
that
fuck that
means. And
means.
according to him, because in ancient Israel, children were expected to mature at a younger age, this justifies marrying them and having sex with them. But in my opinion, what matters is the child's stage of brain development, not whether or not society expects them to be mature. These ancient 12-year-olds didn't have special brains that matured extra quickly just because society was different. I think it should be pretty easy for us to look back at ancient times and say that certain ancient practices were bad. Child marriage was bad, slavery was bad, human sacrifice was bad, but
not if it's in the Bible. That's what you're saying here. Listen, debate, bro. I forgot. Q-Top. Listen, Q-Top. That's what you're fucking saying. You're saying slavery would be okay if it's in the Bible. You're saying that child marriage is okay because it's in the Bible. You're saying that child marriage is okay. That's what you're fucking saying. And you base it on loose terms that you can't fucking prove, on evidence that you don't have, and on a world that was already fucked up. And you say it's okay for your God who is above culture, time, and all these other things, who has the same morality that we do, because he inscribed it on our heart, to say it's okay because it was a different time. No amount of different time will justify a God saying that that is okay, despite him knowing it isn't. That just shows your God was not real and was made by people of the time with knowledge of the time. That is not beyond time. It's just in time of their minds, of them making it up. You know, religious psychosis is the most common form of psychosis. It's like 60% of all cases. And you just, refuse to believe that people 2,000 years ago, with no knowledge of a world without a God, just would not have religious psychosis and would not have voices in their head that would tell them that it is God, despite them having, even with them having no evidence to say that it isn't their God, and you just don't think that they'll believe them. You're, lack of a better word, you're dumb for saying that. That's dumb. That is dumb.
Q-Top feels the need to bend over backwards to morally justify shit
Same.
like this because the Bible justifies it.
What's up, Christ gang?
My God.
Morally justify shit like
What
this
does that shit say? Now therefore kill every male among the little ones, and kill every woman that hath known man by lying with him. But all the women and children that have not known a man by lying with him, keep alive for yourselves. That is not only justifying slavery, that is justifying taking women to rape at your will. And that's okay because it's in the Bible. Bitch, no. Bitch, no. No.
The Bible justifies it.
What's up, Christ gang? I thought I made myself clear, but it seems like there's some people on the internet that are still not grasping what I'm saying.
Just like some Christian cult leaders.
So, okay. He's saying that it was okay. Now, this is just his point of view. He's saying that it was okay because it was a different time and women would have matured faster, with no evidence to say that that's true. Ignoring that, in his mindset, that would make sense to say, and he's not saying that children are able to be slept with. He's saying in certain situations they are. And to him, that's okay because it's in the Bible. To any of us, we know that that's not true. Any of the logical people, and hopefully any of the Christians that are watching this, That's not okay. And he's saying that because society is different, women mature at a later age, and that supposedly, this is what I don't think he's actually even saying this, but I hope that he's saying this. This is what I hope he's saying. He's saying that since women mature at a later age, that age that they mature at is above 18. Therefore, you should only sleep with women who are above 18 because they are then emotionally mature. But at the same time, I think he's also saying if they are 17, 16, 15, 12, or 14, or any of those fucking numbers, after puberty, that it is okay if they are emotionally mature. Again, a very non-measurable quality, non-measurable characteristic. That's better.
This dude wants to utilize the Bible to justify why it's okay to sleep with and marry underage girls.
Okay, clearly this guy just has a lack of comprehension skills.
Clearly, you're just saying that because you know that that's true and you don't want to admit it.
I made myself very clear. I don't believe anyone should be sleeping with underage girls. I said a female must be emotionally mature and physically mature to engage in this thing. Use your head, bro.
Yeah.
So you're saying, oh my god, listen here. So don't sleep with underage girls, but if they're emotionally mature and physically mature, you can sleep with them no matter what age, because there is no age requirement on them. That is quite literally saying that it's okay to sleep with underage girls.
Use your head, bro. Weren't you listening? Q-Top clearly said that the age of physical maturity is first menstruation, which can occur in children as young as 8,
Oh
and the
my
age
fuck.
of emotional maturity has no fixed age, but in ancient Israel it was 12. How could you accuse him of saying it's okay to sleep with underage girls? He clearly only thinks it's okay to sleep with emotionally and physically mature 12-year-olds.
Plus, aren't you an atheist?
What the fuck? Okay. Let me get into this. Aren't you an atheist? Don't you believe in magic? Don't you believe in giants? Don't you believe in what else is a talking donkey? Don't you believe in Adam and Eve when they biologically do not exist? Don't you believe that genetics can be altered by laying a stick next to a sheep to get striped patterns? So, what's more logical? That you use science and basic logic and reasoning and proving yourself wrong until you can't anymore to determine what is the universe and what is behind it, or magic.
You don't have objective morality.
I understand.
That's a good point. But morality matters because it matters in the society. We make it matter. So if you zoom out to a cosmic scale, Hitler and a priest are neutral. But we aren't at a cosmic scale. We are a tiny little blue dot in the midst of nothing. And it matters because we live in that small, zoomed in thing. If we were spread across the galaxy where you could not go a thousand meters without running into another person, yeah, eventually somebody who kills 50 million people will mean practically nothing to you because there's quintillions in place of it. That's how morality works. Morality is not objective. It has always been subjective. It always will be subjective. Saying that it is objective is just saying that it's okay to sleep with 12-year-olds.
That subjective morality doesn't feel very fulfilling from a philosophical perspective, but ultimately I believe that Q-Top's morality is also subjective. It comes from his subjective interpretation of a book that was written by human beings with their own subjective minds. I know Q-Top claims that his version of morality is objective because it comes from God, but I'm not going to accept that unless you show me irrefutable proof that your version of God is real. And if you think that you have the perfect objective moral standard, which was delivered to you straight from God, which tells you that it's okay to have sex with 12-year-olds, you can feel free to believe that in prison.
I've had enough of this. This is like my last video speaking about this issue. Let me just restate my point to make it very, very clear for anyone who still hasn't understood my position. No female who's not mature should be sleeping with an adult. I don't see how you can't understand what I'm saying.
You're saying that if they're mature at 17, they can sleep with a 50-year-old. You're saying if they're mature at 12, not even that cannot happen, which it probably can. I'm not gonna lie to you. A lot of abuse, a lot of what's the word? Oh God, what's the word? Oh, I forgot it. Abuse that will cause trauma. Any amount of trauma will make people mature faster. So you could have a very mature 15-year-old. Does that mean it's okay to fucking sleep with that 15-year-old? Even though they have their period and all that? That's what you're fucking saying. That's what you're saying. That is what you are saying. I don't think you understand. Sure, you may think that it's not okay to sleep with them because that's your basic moral instincts, but your very unbridled desire to follow the God that you cannot prove exists says that it's okay to do that, so you have to defend it no matter what, because he says it is. Even though your basic moral comprehension, that is subjective, says that it's not. So you just do mental gymnastics to try and justify this without even justifying it.
Okay, I understand. You believe that only females who are mature should sleep with adults, and you believe that only some 12-year-olds are mature. Also, what do you even mean by adult? Are you defining adult using a societal definition or a biblical definition? Because according to you, the biblical definition of an adult is a
12 years
12-year-old.
old.
Why would you be okay with 18-year-olds being considered adults according to society, but you wouldn't be okay with setting an age of consent according to society? I think most people would agree that these TikToks make Christians look terrible, and I think most Christians would agree that there's nothing wrong with setting an age of consent in society.
I'm glad. I'm very glad. Because
on
if that ideal continued, we'd be back to punishing people for being witches.
People's brain development, and that in modern times we actually don't need to follow the standards of ancient Israel. So this was Q-Top's biggest controversy, I guess you could say, but in the years since then he's done various debate topics on TikTok. In case you don't know how TikTok debate live
atheism has been disproven. Now, I'm not an atheist. I don't consider myself an atheist. I have about 3 set ideas for how the universe works that are all, in my opinion, equally as plausible. 1, an observant God who does not have any contact with our world and does not give a shit what happens to us. 2, there is no God. It was caused by the 4th dimension that has an infinite amount of 3rd dimensions. 3, simulation, which, I've been learning to not agree with it wholeheartedly. And I've been thinking about how true it really is and how plausible it really is. But an all-knowing, all-loving God just contradicts himself in every single way. Not every single way, but in a way that's important enough to say it doesn't exist.
Streams work. Usually the person running the live stream will put some sort of inflammatory statement above their head in the hopes that this will get people to stop scrolling when they're on the For You page and watch the debate. Think of these words above their head as kind of similar to YouTube clickbait, and one of these debate clickbait topics that Q-Top likes to put above his head is that Christianity should be forced on children.
Oh my
This slide is
God.
about how Christianity should actually be forced on children. Do you agree or disagree?
I'm sure Q-Top knows that if he just put Christianity should be taught to children above his head, this wouldn't get him nearly as much attention on the For You page, but saying that Christianity should be forced onto children, now that's spicy. And when you combine him saying that sometimes it's okay to marry children, sometimes it's okay to have sex with children, and we should force religion onto children, Q-Top clearly has a fixation with talking about ignoring children's consent. One metaphor that Q-Top likes to use to justify why we should force Christianity onto children is that if a child was standing on a train track, you would force the child to get off of the train track.
Yeah, but first you have to prove that the train is fucking real. And then you also have to somehow justify that that train is real and that it's okay for running over that child while knowing it's doing that the entire time that it exists. So, yeah, there you go.
If there's a child standing on a train track, okay, and there's a train coming, okay, there's a train that's coming at like 200 miles per hour. I mean, this thing is booking, and
Turn that shit into red mist, alright? Turn that shit into a splatter that they won't be able to fucking document, alright? No matter what, you still have to prove that that train exists. Now, if you did say that if that train did truly exist, and you could quantify that and demonstrate it in a way that is indeterministic, I don't know if that's the right word. If you can prove that it fucking exists, sure. I'd say it should probably be forced onto children because that is literally child endangerment to not make them believe in that because it's real. I mean, that's like saying it's okay. Now, like, if children who didn't believe in atheism, who didn't believe in evolution, died, every time that they didn't, it would be a crime, child endangerment, to not teach them that and not practically force them to believe that it is true. Because that is a real train that will affect them in this hypothetical scenario. But you can't prove that your train exists. And you cannot prove that that train will run into that child. So, the best you could do is scream from the sidelines and say, hey, I think there's a train coming. You should probably move. And then that kid's like, nah, everything else has told me that it's not, so and everything has demonstrated that it's probably not. So, I'm gonna continue sitting on these train tracks because I like these train tracks. They're very nice. They're comfortable. They make my asshole bleed. But yeah.
it's coming and child's on the track. Would you stand there and let the child choose to be on the track or not? Or would you forcefully get that child off the track? If something harms your child, they should be forced to stop.
So the argument here is that sometimes we do have to force children to do things that they don't want to do. If a child is in a situation where they're about to die, then
oh my goodness, I don't want to go into this for a third time. If your child was going to drink chemicals, and you know that those chemicals exist and that they are really harmful, you should probably stop them from drinking that. Right? Now, if they go into that and they're drinking a gallon of water, and you're like, oh, water's dangerous because something says it is. Some 2,000-year-old text written by people that never even met my Messiah says it is. Is it okay to deprive that child of water? No.
should force them out of that situation. And in the same way, we should force Christianity onto children because if they don't become Christians, they'll go to hell, and going to hell is even worse than getting hit by a train. The issues with this argument are, one, Christianity is just one of the countless religions which might be true, and I don't think we should force things onto children which only might be true. Two, if you force religion onto children, they will be much more likely to suffer from religious trauma, which can cause them mental harm for the rest of their life, whereas if you allow them to come to religion freely, they will be much less likely to suffer from religious trauma. And three, trying to force a child to follow your religious beliefs can be more likely to just cause them to want to rebel and reject those beliefs, because generally people don't enjoy feeling like they're being forced to follow a certain ideology. Speaking from personal...
But when they are, 8 years old to 5 years old, they will trust you no matter how much everything else is telling them that it's not okay. I was brought into Christianity when I was 6 years old. And after I developed my own personality and developed my own rational thinking skills, I genuinely could not believe that my parents not only allowed me to believe in this, but thought that it's, just right. Not right, but thought that it's true. I was genuinely confused on how they thought that this thing could have existed. And how this God that you can't prove exists does exist. And how all these other things that are in the Bible that aren't true, yet they believe in it anyway. And how they just completely ignored everything that said that they weren't. I had no idea about child indoctrination. I had no idea about adult indoctrination or manipulation or, fear tactics or any of these, decently complex topics until I was like 13. Like, I genuinely could not believe it. Like, I pretended I did, but I could not quantify it or understand it because none of it made sense to me. None of it. Not one of it made sense to me. After I learned genetics, that fucked the whole thing up too for me. I mean, after learning about Adam and Eve, I was like, wait. So, Adam and Eve, they had sex, they aren't related. And then their son had to sleep with somebody. Who's the only girl in existence here? Uh-oh, it's your fucking mom. Does your God think it's okay for you to sleep with your mother? That's basically what that story is saying. That's not the whole of the story. Although the choices of two people that you've never met can't prove exist and have no directional force, have no say in their actions, should not dictate how you and billions of others should suffer in a world that you did not ask to be in. So the choices of two people should never dictate the suffering of billions. Because they lived in a perfect world. They got kicked out of it because they broke the one rule, while God knew they would the whole time. And, somehow he was surprised by this, which doesn't make any sense to me. It didn't make sense to me either back then. So he sends you and all their descendants to Earth Jail, where they can get sick and die. And I was like, okay, well, why not, keep the son, because the son had no part in that. So just keep the son in the Garden of Eden, and if he eats it, send him back to Earth Jail too. That's like having your father commit a crime, and then if you're born in jail, you just have to stay in jail. You don't get a foster family or nothing like that. No, you just have to stay in jail. And no, your son and your son's son and your son's son's son and his son all have to stay in jail because of somebody that they have never met committed a crime. That never made sense to me. Still doesn't. And if it makes sense to you, you're wrong. Just gonna tell you that. You're wrong. Right?
Experience as someone who grew up in the church, all of the positive religious
Not you're wrong. It shouldn't make sense to you. And it only makes sense to you because you have been manipulated into practically forcing yourself to think it makes sense to you. When it doesn't.
experiences I had growing up were ones that I felt like I came to freely, and all of the negative religious experiences I had growing up were ones that I felt like I was forced into. Q-Top makes the argument that in the same way we force children to go to school because this promotes their well-being, we should force Christianity onto children because this promotes their well-being.
80%. No, I think it's 90%. 90% of everybody in jail is a Christian. At least the U.S. Jail system. The other half, the rest of them are Muslim, and I think it's 0.33% are atheists. Many atheists turn to Christians in jail because they have nothing else to cling to. So they start believing in magic because they have been dehumanized enough to think, oh, well, this makes sense, and this will help me get through these hard times. Does it? Yes, but is it because of the work of some god, or is it because of placebo?
The terminology when we talk about forced is the same terminology when we say that kids should be forced to go to school. We both agreed that we should force things on our children that prevent harm from coming to them.
You have to prove that that harm will happen to justify forcing them into that. This is how the world works, right? Right?
I'm gonna say it again. We should force things on our children that prevent harm from coming to them.
But again, the difference between forcing a child to go to school and
I don't understand how people don't see that this is such a distorted worldview. Like, I mean, cool if you have no experience in debating. You have to have some experience in logic. You have to prove that that train exists if you want to save them from that train. Because if they don't think that train exists, you cannot justify taking them off of those tracks if they love those tracks. You cannot justify forcing kids into a belief that they don't want to be in, that will potentially cause them harm, just because you think that something bad will happen to them that you cannot prove will happen to them. I don't understand how many times I gotta explain that, but it's obviously not going to get through some of you guys' heads.
Forcing a child to follow Christianity is that we have much more direct evidence that the things taught in school are actually accurate. I think we can clearly demonstrate, for example, how the principles taught in math class are true, whereas I don't think we can clearly demonstrate that the Christian God is true. Now, Q-Top would disagree with this because he thinks he can demonstrate how the Christian God is true, which...
The law of cause... Nope, the law of... No, I done forgot it. It was so useless knowledge to me that it's just slipped my fucking mind after 25
we'll get
minutes.
To later, but I disagree with this. Now,
after
I do
20
think
minutes,
it is
it was like
true
5
that
minutes
there are
into
a
the
lot
video.
of positive outcomes
No, it was before that.
associated with children going to school, and there are some positive outcomes associated with children believing in religion. Things like...
The thing is, keyword there is some. I know many of my friends who have been touched by people in high religious power, and when they said something, they were shut down. And that is horrifying, right? Now, I'm not saying that that happens in every case, but I'm saying it happens in enough to where if you want to leave a belief and you don't want to be forced to go to a building you literally have been traumatized by every Sunday and Saturday, if you believe in either of those, that is a human right. That is a human right. That should be a right for anybody. The same as worshiping that religion. That should be a right for you to not go to that place because of that. And if your God does not understand that, your God is not good in the first place.
Having a greater sense of community or a greater sense of purpose, but...
And that is the only reason people believe in religion. It's because it gives them a false sense of... Not false, because it is an actual community. But it gives them hope and feeling of belonging when they think they are absent of it, when they can achieve it without that. That being the belief in magic without evidence. And that is the main source of their belief because it makes them feel warm and fuzzy. Let's go on. That was kind of unnecessary, but let's go on.
I also believe that community and purpose can be found outside of religion.
Perfect. It's really simple. So if we say things should be forced on children that promote their well-being, Christianity promotes children's well-being, therefore
in some cases,
Christianity should
not be forced.
See, look, I understand why he's aggravated. Because to him, that made perfect sense. And she is not showing why that does not make sense to her, at least in this clip. So it's aggravating. It's like talking to a brick wall because they only respond with, hey, I'm going to sit here because I was built here. They're not going to say, oh, I'm built here because the wind, will affect people inside of me. They just... So if you say, hey, wall, move. They'd be like, oh, no, I was built here, I can't. You'd be like, well, why? Just because I was built here. But why? Because I was built here. they don't give an actual reason, and it's obviously aggravating. This is a justified response to somebody who's incompetent on both sides. If you cannot point out the simple fact that it's justifiable in some cases, no, that you have to prove that that danger exists in order to justify forcing people to believe in it, then yeah, like if you have to force kids to not drink dangerous chemicals because you know they are dangerous, you can prove that the chemicals are dangerous. If you force people from not drinking water because you think water is dangerous, despite there's no evidence to say that there is, that's not right.
Can I?
Ma'am, thank you for coming up.
I do think it is true that sometimes we should force things onto children that promote their well-being, but I don't think it logically follows that every single thing that promotes a child's well-being should be forced onto them. I think that playing sports generally promotes children's well-being because it helps them stay active and healthy, but I don't think that just because playing soccer might promote a child's well-being that
Every
we should force
child
them to
should
play
be
soccer if they don't want
forced to
to.
play soccer.
It promotes children's well-being to eat broccoli, but if a child really hates broccoli, I don't think you should force them to eat broccoli every single day just because it promotes their well-being.
See, that is an interesting point that I think many Christians will just be like, well, it's okay to force them to eat broccoli because it will help them. If they really hate eating broccoli, and it will only hurt them to eat broccoli mentally, not even physically, if it will mentally hurt them to keep eating broccoli because they don't feel like they have control, that will lead to very damaging side effects like them shaving all the hair off because their body is the only thing they have control over. Or cutting themselves because, again, their body is the only thing they have control over. They don't even have control of what they eat. So it would leave them to look for control. Let them eat asparagus if they like asparagus. Let them, blend up the broccoli and put some chocolate in it and make it taste good so they're still getting their nutritious. They're still getting their neutrons. Nope. Fuck. Nutrients! If they're still getting their nutrients. But don't outwardly force them to eat that because you think it's okay to eat that. And it's shown that it's okay to eat that. Make it okay for them to eat that. So, that doesn't really make a great argument for this. But the only reason it's okay to make them eat that is because it's proven to have benefits. And the only reason it's not okay to force them to eat that is because it will have bad side effects on themselves and their mental self-esteem and their idea of control and much more. So there's kind of a nice little balance we all have with this. But this is one very specific thing. I mean, if you think eating broccoli is bad, you have to prove that it's bad to force kids to not eat broccoli. That's pretty basic.
And in the same way, I think there is evidence that shows that religion can benefit children in certain ways, but I believe we should allow children to come to this decision for themselves instead of forcing them to follow a certain religion. I think there should be some level of force applied to children to make sure that they're eating healthy and staying active and making good moral choices and that they have a sense of community and purpose, but I still think we should allow children autonomy to make decisions for themselves about what is best for them. Just because you as a parent might...
Damn, it's like halfway through and I'm an hour into this recording and I'm sweating.
might love soccer and think it'll promote your child's well-being for them to play soccer, I don't think you should force them to play soccer if they hate soccer. And in the same way, just because you as a parent might think that Christianity is really great and that it'll help your child's well-being, I don't think you should force it onto your children because of all the negative side effects that can come from this. If as an American you grasp the concept that generally freedom feels better than being forced to do certain things, maybe you should also apply that concept of freedom when dealing with your children, at least to a certain extent.
And with your children and religion, like the fucking Constitution states. You have freedom of religion, forcing your kids to go to church every day because, oh, you believe it, you live under my house, you're going to believe in this, or you're at least going to practice it with me, so I can eventually indoctrinate you to believe in it. is borderline unconstitutional. I'm just going to say that one more time. Borderline unconstitutional.
Force a child to understand and to act out applicably the things in the Bible. They should be applying these things in their life. They should be acting it out. And if they're not acting it out, there are severe consequences.
So according to Q-Top, there should be severe consequences if a child doesn't follow God's word. This is the difference between teaching Christianity to children and forcing Christianity onto children. Because the definition of the word force is coercion or compulsion, especially with the use.
Coercion? I don't know if I said that right. Coercion? So, indoctrination? Hold on. Ignore this very sexy man. Is Nope. I don't think I spelled that right. Is indoctrination a synonym? It's also... Just gonna go back to the original. That's probably not how you spell it either. Of force. Yeah. Synonym. Huh. It is not a direct synonym for it. Synonym. Cinnamon. Okay. Can involve force. Highlight that. Can involve force. It's not a direct synonym for it. Okay. Process of teaching someone to accept a set of beliefs uncritically, often through repetition, and without encouraging critical thinking. Anybody who doesn't want you to think will never be your friend. What is that? Thermian trees say that shit? Anybody who doesn't want you to think will never be your friend. They may look like it, they may act like it, they are not. Oh my goodness. Force, on the other hand, is physically or psychological power to make someone do something against their will. So, in some cases, indoctrination is force. It is a synonym for force in some cases. In others, it's not. I'd say, in most, it is. You are forcing that kid to go to church every day. You are forcing that kid to pray every day. You are forcing that kid to pray before dinner. You are forcing that kid to do all these things. And you may not be saying you're not holding a gun to their head, but you're holding a social gun to their head saying, oh, if you don't believe in this, not even directly saying it, but when they mention it, completely shutting down the idea and showing that if they show the slightest bit of non-belief, they will be ostracized from the family and disconnected from their one and only social connection that they have. That's basically like holding a gun to your head, especially for a group of humans that have all evolved to do what the group wants. Because if they don't, they usually got exiled from the group and fucking died. Which means only the ones who did what the group would say got to live and got to spread their nut into the monkeys. Alright, basic evolution for you. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Use or threat of violence. I ended up joining Q-Top's live stream, but sadly I wasn't able to get a recording of it. But I explained to him that the definition of force usually implies some sort of threat of violence, and he agreed with me and said that he believes it would be justified to beat your children if they didn't want to go to church because beating children is a justified form of punishment according to the Bible. I then brought up that there are a lot of psychological studies that show that spanking or beating your children as a form of punishment is psychologically damaging to them.
I don't want to get too deep into the whole you can beat your children. If you lack the comprehension that a conversation of somebody who is 13 and older can probably be more effective emotionally and physically to teach your child of like how to do right and wrong. Now, if they're under the age of like 6 or 7 and they cannot comprehend, my feelings yet, and they're practically a psychopath, because all babies are. They don't care about what you think, they just care about surviving. Because if the babies who did care about your feelings, they fucking died. So another product of evolution. They're effectively a psychopath. Pain is the only real reason to deal with these kids. So spanking someone who's under 3 years old or longer or maybe 3 to 4 years old, that's okay. I'd say that is a good idea. Spanking somebody who's 6 or 7, oh my fuck, who is 6 or the number that comes after that, when they can understand feelings and have empathy and understand when they do that, that hurts your feelings, and they don't like having their feelings hurt, therefore you don't like having your feelings hurt, and they should care about that because they care about you, is a much better decision than fucking giving them a good old smack. Your God would know this because he's all-knowing. Let me reinstate that. Your God would know this because he's all-knowing, but he doesn't. Further proof that your Bible, your God, was created by people of the time it was written, with knowledge of the time that it was written.
And his response was that he doesn't trust any of these psychological studies because he doesn't trust science, because he believes that empiricism and the scientific method are inherently flawed. He said just because there might be studies showing that beating
Atheism is a mental illness. Oh my goodness! Religious psychosis is an actual mental illness, and it comes from mostly Christianity and other Abrahamic faiths. Fucking throw me in jail. Like, that's an actual mental illness that comes from your very perfect belief. Atheism has only shown, has only shown to be honestly helpful to people who've experienced religious indoctrination and religious psychosis and many other forms of religious abuse. If your religion literally says that it's okay to murder people who leave it, and you think that that's the minds of perfectly well and working people, I think you're the one with the mental illness. That's Islam, by the way. I don't think, despite an apostate and being an apostate Christian, is also very looked down upon. You're not going to get tried for murder for it. You're not going to get tried for execution for it. But in Israel, yes, you will. And in the Middle East, yes, you will. Or any other, what else? What else is another fucking country with laws against being non-Muslim? You probably will get executed for being an apostate. That is fucking mental illness.
Children usually harms them, we can't prove that it'll always harm them because of the problem of induction. The problem of induction is a philosophical
Actually, I haven't heard of the problem of induction. I'm glad he's explaining it.
problem which was first introduced by the philosopher David Hume. The problem of induction basically states that just because something was true in the past, we can't prove with 100% certainty that in the future it will continue to be true. Just because gravity has worked in the past, we can't prove with 100% certainty that gravity will continue to work in the future. This is why
I don't believe that. That's really interesting. I mean, I guess it's true. Because we can't look into the future. But that's like saying, oh, we cannot say with 100% certainty that the flying spaghetti monster, will not come down and fuck every girl, hentai style, on the planet, virgins and married. So, I mean, you can't prove that it won't happen in the future sometime. You also can't prove that there's a flying teapot in the middle of space, so you have to believe that that teapot is real? No.
Science operates off of probabilities instead of operating off of absolute certainties. We aren't certain that gravity will continue to work tomorrow, but we can predict with a very high probability that gravity will continue working tomorrow using a process called Bayesian inference. But
Okay. Now I'm getting it. That does make sense. That actually does make sense. I understood that. And I agree with that. But still, it's saying that it is a not infinity number of zeros. 1% chance that gravity won't work tomorrow for whatever reason. So, I mean, everything is based off a set of confidence. You can never truly prove 100% thing. You can never truly prove that anything is 100% true. Besides, in the present moment, that is 100% true. You cannot say that it will be true tomorrow with 100% certainty, but you can with 99.99999 continuing on percent certainty. Which practically means nothing, but I know any Christian will take that completely out of context and say, so God can be real tomorrow, huh? Yeah, so can, a big black man coming up behind you and raping you. That can also be true tomorrow. Is it gonna happen? Probably fucking not. Do I have evidence to say that? Yeah, because a big black man has not raped you before, and there's no big black man that would want to rape you. So, there's a big fucking chance that won't fucking happen. There's also a probability that there's a flying teapot in space. Does that mean that you have to believe that it is in space? Or that you have to believe in it and worship it? No. No.
But Q-Top says, fuck that, Bayesian inference is false. The only things we can know to be true are what we can prove to be true, and the only way we can prove anything to be true is through God. The
When you
conversation
can't
between
prove that he's even fucking real. Great point, dude.
me and Q-Top ended with him explaining to me that he doesn't believe that gravity or space are real, and that he believes that the Earth is flat. I guess these are...
Okay. I have a hard time believing that is actually what he said, because he did not capture any recording of it. Because I do not, well, I mean, there are people who do believe in that. Oh. And he did say that it's okay to fuck a 12-year-old. So do I really want to put it past him? I do want to put it past him. Can I put it past him? I really can't. I really hope that he genuinely doesn't believe that, and he's only saying that because of religious psychosis. Genuinely. Seriously. Because I know he really doesn't believe that. I hope he doesn't, dude.
are the types
That's
of things
sad
that you
if he
might
does.
believe if you completely reject science, so I guess Q-Top is at least consistent there. Another justification Q-Top gives for why we should force Christianity onto children is that in the Bible, God commanded Abraham to forcefully circumcise his children and servants.
He also forced Abraham to attempt to kill his child, in which Abraham did without question. And then was just like, oh no, that's a joke. I was kidding, guys. I was just testing you. When an all-knowing God would not need to test anyone. If you are all-knowing, you would know that Abraham would have killed his child without having to forcibly make him. And the way I see it, without a God, Abraham had some murderous intent that his moral side of the mind was like, okay, this has to be my God. Which only further instated the belief that he had to do it. Because his God said so, and obviously he would never think of something like that, so his God had to have. And since his God is all good, he had to listen to it. In my mind, that is clear and obvious religious psychosis. That is what convinced this, 40-year-old Christian to drown all 5 of her kids. That is what convinced, 50-something people to drink cyanide-infused Kool-Aid. That is what convinced another mom to kill both of her 2 children in 2007, I believe. Does that mean that they're all justified in it? Oh, one of them even cited Abraham in court. It's a mental condition. It's going to continue to be a mental condition. It has always been a mental condition. The same way people thought Same way people thought sleep paralysis, there it is, was demons trying to touch you. It was just something that happens because the brain is weird. Does not mean that demons are actually trying to touch you. Same thing, practically.
Abraham was called to circumcise everyone in that household.
I'm going to circumcise you because God told me to. You don't want to be circumcised, though. Like, no, I want my foreskin. I need my foreskin. Just be like, I don't care. I don't care. It's mine now. I'm going to fucking serve it up, cook it, and put salt and pepper on it because it's all the things I have access to. And I'm going to feed it to my child. Because God told me to. You're supposed to say, oh, okay, go ahead. Take my whole wiener if you want. Take all that shit. Right? I don't need it anyway. It's only 2.5 inches. Oh, I wish it was bigger. Moving on.
Including the children and the male servants and everyone in the household, he was commanded to circumcise.
In the Bible, God told Abraham to forcefully cut the skin off of everyone's penises. That's why I need to beat my children if they don't go to church. I've brought this up in videos before, but I will always find it so ironic that the same people who claim that trans people are trying to go around forcefully mutilating children's genitals literally justify forcefully mutilating children's genitals.
It is not a damaging procedure. That's Ben Shapiro. Now, is it okay to circumcise your kids? Honestly, that's a really good thing that I don't think I'm equipped to deal with. Would I circumcise my kid? Probably. But that's because I like being circumcised. I like being circumcised. I'm circumcised, by the way, TMI, but I like being circumcised. I think it looks better than not being circumcised. Should I allow my son to do that as well? Or force him to, not allow him, force him to. No, I don't think that's okay. I don't think that's okay. I should let him get to like 13, 14, ask him, hey, do you like your dick skin? You like that shit? You can keep it if you want, but you can take it off, and I'll pay for it. And you'll actually be under anesthetic this time. You know, because if you were done it by a baby, they wouldn't put you under anesthesia. They just fucking get to chopping. So, that's probably the best decision. Yeah, that's probably a better decision. Letting him decide if he wants to keep it or not. Just gonna tell you, I'm gonna be like, some women think it's weird for you to have it. But if you like it, and if you think it looks okay, you know, and not like a weird thumb that's like got a weird growth on it, you can keep it. But it's ultimately up to you. I like being circumcised. I think it looks a lot better than not being circumcised. That's all just on me though. That's not my kid. That's my decision. Should be his. It's not my decision to say that he should be circumcised because it's his decision. It's his body. If he wants his dick to not be cut, let his dick not be cut.
I have never seen a single
Thy
trans person
dick
who
shall
either
not be cut.
justifies children getting
Thy dick should not be cut. If owner's dick does not want thy dick to be cut. Fucking Shakespeare, right?
bottom surgeries or would force a child to get a bottom surgery. But this dude feels like it's totally normal to be like, well, of course Abraham went around and forcefully cut the skin off of all of his servants and children's penises. God told him to. If just one single trans person ever made this sort of argument, they would be endlessly paraded around as proof that trans people are a danger to children. But when a Christian makes this argument, oh, you know, it's just a normal part of Christianity. So now we've had Q-Top justifying having sex sex with children, marrying children, forcefully cutting the skin off of children's penises, and beating children if they don't follow your religious views. At this point, can we just call a spade and say that this man is an abuser? All of this shit should not be considered normal.
An abuser. Now that is a good question. That, I think, is adding thought crime. And thought crime is not okay unless they advocate for it. If they advocate for it and they go to press conferences and say, hey, we should force kids to get their dicks circumcised. Cut that shit off. God told me to. That is an issue. Then he would be an abuser. If obviously he doesn't want to fuck a kid. Saying that it's okay to is not okay. That's not okay, but that is not a punishable offense because thought crime is inherently wrong. Your God doesn't fucking think so. By your God's rules, actually no, because you apparently think it's okay for that. But if he does truly have the same morality inscribed on our hearts as we do, then you would be in jail, my friend, for saying that. Not even committing the act of it, just saying that, because thought crime is justifiable in his eyes, when it's not in anyone's eyes. It should never be. Moving on.
Normal just because you think God says it's normal. The argument that
yeah, no. I wouldn't add thought crime to it. If he does advocate for it, yeah, lock his bitch ass up, because then he would be an abuser. But right now, he is just confused. Genuinely just confused, and following what he has been taught to follow, following what he has been indoctrinated to follow, manipulated, if you will, and speaking by it because he has been taught to ignore all evidence that it is not real, to ignore all evidence that it isn't real, because if it is, on the off chance that it is, you will suffer in eternity, because for whatever reason, your God thinks that is okay, without you being to explain how it is okay. So, yeah, you ignore logic and reason because you've always done that. You ignore logic and reason because you've been taught to do that. And you ignore logic and reason because you think it is okay to.
Q-Top keeps making over and over is that if we don't force these things onto children, it will harm them because they're gonna go to hell. But he ignores the harm that comes from religious trauma, the harm that comes from beating children, the harm that comes from statutorily raping children, and the harm that comes from forcefully mutilating children's genitals. This man...
My genitals were mutilated. That's a big word, though. Mutilated? Just cutting the extra skin off. I mean, it makes it easier to clean. It prevents infection. I'm not really sure how damaging the procedure is, but that's just what I've been told. So, I mean, forcibly doing it, that's wrong, obviously. But saying that it's wrong to circumcise, I'm not sure how true that really is. That's just me, though.
Man does not care about harming children. He only really cares about one specific type of harm which might happen to children if his specific version of God turns out to be real out of all of the infinite versions of God which could be real. And I know in this video it might come across like I'm shitting on Christianity, but I don't think that being a Christian means you need to be like Q-Top. Maybe instead of using fear tactics and beating your children into submission, you could just demonstrate to them how a life of following Christ is so much more fulfilling.
Now, how I object to that is if your Bible says if you don't follow every word of this, I'm not sure if it says this, but it very clearly states that this is the word of a perfect being. You should follow everything that he says. And if that is what Q-Top, I almost called him Q-Tip, Q-Top, he's following what the Bible tells you to do. He is following outdated ideas from people with knowledge of the time that created a God without knowledge of the future, without knowledge of actual morality that is actually good at the current moment, And just this, he's following what the Bible, he's doing what the Bible tells him to. He's doing what is right in his eyes. Because that's what the word of a perfect being is saying. You should follow every bit of that. That's not okay, right? So when your Bible tells you that it's okay to sleep with a 12-year-old because they are women, when your Bible says that, does that make it okay to sleep with a 12-year-old? No. That makes you question whether your God is good or not. And if you somehow come to the conclusion that he still is, it only proves and shows how manipulated and how indoctrinated you truly are.
I will just always believe that if you want people to join your religion, it should be through love, not through fear. And I know that Q-Top would
That's the only fucking way they can.
probably respond to this by saying that we shouldn't sugarcoat God's word, and that part of being a Christian is acknowledging the scary truths like that if you don't follow God, you'll burn in hell. And if he thinks
that is literally what most Christians believe. Right? And if you don't believe that, you are directly contradicting the word of a perfect being. I don't think you understand this. Christianity is not okay morally. It is only okay when you don't take it at face value. It is only okay when you change it to fit our society, because your all-knowing God somehow didn't see how our society could change whatsoever, because your God didn't know what the fucking future entails, because he doesn't fucking exist. Oh my god. Like,
thinks that preaching this message on TikTok is going to convert more people to Christianity, then go for it. But I would argue you're actually pushing people away from Christianity when you associate being a Christian with being a raving, condescending lunatic who tells people that it's okay to have sex with 12-year-olds. But you know what? If Q-Top's version of Christianity...
he's not even saying that. He's pointing out passages in the Bible that say that. Like, again, in the Bible it says you have to be mature, and they have to be physically and emotionally mature. The Bible says people are considered women at 12. And being emotionally mature is subjective to not only the 12-year-old, but to you as well. So if you say they are emotionally mature, and they outright say that they're not, you can easily just say, oh, well, you don't know, because you're only 12. You don't know what being emotionally mature is. I see that you are emotionally mature, therefore you need to suck my dick. Very easily say that. You could very easily say that, because the Bible does not explicitly prohibit that. And that can snowball into people thinking that they're emotionally mature right when they hit puberty, because the Bible does not explicitly say that. And that can then snowball into people being married at 10 years old. Again, these beliefs, if not kept in check by people who have basic moral skills, who aren't affected by religious psychosis, and who are not manipulated beyond belief, can prevent that. Only them can prevent that, because they have basic moral skills. Basic morality, basic... what's the word? Yeah, morality, I guess. The thing is, these things are not okay. They will never be okay, and they have never been okay. But your perfect, morally perfect, all-knowing, all-powerful God says they are, when we have the same morals as he does. You see how this is only proving to show that your God was created with the knowledge of the time, with the people of the time, by the people of the time, not with, by the people of the time, and cannot actually see into the future to know that these things are wrong, which is why he never said, don't do slavery, despite him knowing that it's wrong. He saying that he provided rules with how you treat a slave does not distract from the fact he is telling you how to treat a slave. He is literally openly saying, this is how a slave should be treated. not saying you should not treat a slave anyway because you should not have a slave at all. It would be that fucking easy for that God, who is morally perfect, to just say, hey, slavery's wrong, by the way. Oh, and witches don't exist. So, don't murder millions of women just because you think they're a witch without being able to prove they are. And only being able to prove they are if they die. And then if they survive, you have to kill them again because they're a witch. Very easy just to say that, which will save the lives of millions of his children, which he knew would have died if he did not say that. He just doesn't say it. Again, only further showing how your God is either not all loving, not all knowing, or not all powerful. Or no, not all powerful, or doesn't exist. Right? If he's not all knowing, he's a lie. If he's not all loving, he cannot be trusted. He is a shitty person. If he doesn't exist, he does not exist. If he's unknowable and his ways we cannot comprehend his ways, we cannot comprehend the ability to trust him. We cannot trust a person who we don't fully understand. That was in a fucking Superman movie. You can't trust somebody. You can't trust Superman because you don't understand Superman. So once they understood Superman, they could trust him. But the thing is, they could prove that Superman fucking existed. And if you want to make the argument that he's unknowable and his ways cannot be taught to a very flawed mortal man, you cannot say that he is okay for making us flawed and making us unable to trust him and then punishing us for an eternity for not trusting him when we can't even prove he exists, nor, if he's unknowable, can prove that he is trustable. Like, don't mean to suck my tits a little bit. Okay, I don't know where that was going, but, no need to flash my titties. It's just basic. Not basic, it's pretty advanced logic and reasoning. And I know your Bible has taught you to completely ignore that, because your God is real, and if he is real, oh my God, if he is real, you'll suffer forever for listening to me. Therefore, you are indoctrinated. No, you are forced to believe, using fear tactics, that he is real, and if he isn't, you will suffer forever, and yet you somehow think that he loves you for that. Because you've been further manipulated to think that literally allowing people will suffer for, not allowing, but creating people if you create them will suffer forever because you chose to create them, yet you love them, is okay, and is true. That, I kind of lost my train of thought. That is serving, no, I'm not sure if that's serving to show, I hope that shows you how manipulated you have been. If that made sense, if that sentence made sense, or a few sentences, because again, kind of lost my train of thought, and I'm doing this completely unedited and completely without a script. So,
Christianity really is true, and we really are all gonna burn in hell if we don't follow it.
Also, I just want to say, I've been doing this for 2 hours, hour 51 minutes, and I'm 30 minutes into the video. I yap so fucking much, and it's because I'm reinstating belief. This is practically a podcast. I'm reinstating things that I've already said like 10 times. I should not.
Then maybe we should force it onto children. Thankfully, Q-Top claims that he can prove that his version of God is the real God.
I am going to prove to you today.
When you guys couldn't do that for 2,000 years. Great. Cool. I believe you. Sure.
That the Christian God is the only God that can exist in reality.
Your version of the Christian God that differs from the 2.5 billion other versions of the Christian God is real. Sure. Definitely. Somehow that makes sense to at least one person who is listening to this.
Theologians and philosophers have been trying to prove the existence of God for centuries, but little did they know that the Christian God would be proven to be real once and for all on a TikTok debate live stream. And Q-Top is able to prove that
really does not, deject from that statement. So if he did actually know that his Christian God was real, and he could demonstrate that, saying that it was on a TikTok live does not discredit the fact that he actually was able to demonstrate that his version of the Christian God is real. And if his version of the Christian God is real, that would honestly be the worst fucking thing that could happen to our reality. Not only that, that would add thought crime into legislation, which is immoral. That would add, being able to marry 12-year-olds, which is immoral. That would add, what else? That would add the idea that magic is real, which we know leads to people literally being tortured for being witches when witches don't exist. That would mean giants are real. That would mean a worldwide flood happened when there's no evidence that either of them have ever existed throughout any point of time ever. And that would also mean that the entirety of genetics is just bogus, and despite it being proven to have worked, just doesn't. And you gotta place a stick next to a sheep at a certain time, at a certain direction, for you to actually get a stripe pattern. So, yeah, this is all things that would be proven in the Bible if it was true at face value, which none of those things are, and they never will be, because it's not true.
That the Christian God is real using the law of the principle of proportional causality.
Oh my God,
Do you know what the law of principle of proportional causality is? We know that this creation, this earth, is the effect of a cause, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. So, there's an effect and there's a cause of something. You should switch it. There's a cause and an effect of something to everything. So if you trace it back to everything, eventually there has to be a cause for something. But you can't get a cause for the Big Bang, therefore God. But if you do that all the way to God, God needs a cause to have an effect. And if you do that to that cause, that would also need a cause. If you do that to that cause, that would also need a cause. And there is no ending point to this.
That something, this higher power, caused this earth to exist, and this is the effect, and the higher power is the cause, right?
Okay, so first Q-top.
Okay. What the fuck? You have to prove that higher being exists to say that he is the cause of this planet. When we have overwhelming evidence to say that it was not the fucking infinite being that you are describing. It was quantum particles that blinked in and out of our reality that caused large disturbances when the universe was this fucking small. All of the energy in the universe, this fucking small. Particles blinking in and out of existence would not have an effect on this big of a universe. But when it's this fucking big, you could imagine that could cause a lot of disturbances. Therefore, boom. Big Bang. Based off of something that we know to exist, aka quantum tunneling past reality, I think. Quantum tunneling past our universe.
Claims that
particles blinking in and out of existence. We know that to happen. We've recorded that happen. We've seen it happen. We've demonstrated it happens. We know that it happens randomly in all parts of the universe. We know that it happens everywhere, which means if the universe was this big, it would also happen everywhere. But when it's this big, it would have a larger disturbance than if it was as big as it is now. Therefore, boom.
that a higher power had to have caused the universe to exist. Obviously,
but what he's saying is that was definitely not something that happened. That was just the Big Bang being caused by a god that you can't prove exists, because everything needs a cause, and that also includes God. That would include God if everything needs a cause. Now, you cannot just say, oh, well, he doesn't need a cause because he's God. You have to prove that being exists, and you also have to prove that is true. So you have to prove two things that you haven't been able to prove for 2,000 years.
This is not something that most atheists...
And then you have to prove that your specific interpretation of that God is real, despite, even if you prove both of those things, that would only prove that a God exists, and would cease to explain all of the misconceptions, and the straight up things that did not happen in the Bible told as truths, like the walls of Jericho falling from trumpets, the sun staying still. I mean, genetics being bogus, and you could just lay a stick next to a sheep to get a strike pattern. That's something that is in the Bible, by the way.
Would agree with. I think Q-Top is basically stating the Kalam cosmological argument here, which goes, premise 1, whatever begins to exist has a cause. Premise 2, the universe began to exist. Conclusion, therefore the universe had a cause for coming into existence. And if the material universe came into existence out of pure nothingness, or ex nihilo, then something outside of the material universe would have had to cause the material universe to come into existence. And that cause had to have been some sort of immaterial higher power. I think that's how Q-Top gets to the conclusion that a higher power had to have created the universe.
Even if that is true, which I've already demonstrated that is only a possibility, and you probably cannot prove that to be true. Even if it was true, that does not explain how your specific interpretation of the Christian Bible, of that Christian God, of the Abraham religion, is true and does exist in the very specific way that you interpret.
This higher power caused this Earth to exist.
Now, first of all, some scientists reject the premise that whatever comes into existence has to have a cause. Certain advancements within the field of quantum physics suggest that this might not actually be the case, but I don't want to get into quantum physics.
Bang, bang, bang! You know, just want to bang, bang, bang! Point that out.
In this video. I'm currently working on another project that does go into the basics of quantum physics, so stay on the lookout for that.
You know, him talking about quantum physics, despite him being horrendously egg-shaped, kind of turned me on. You know, hey, bro, I know you're not going to watch this. Just like, I'll link it down in the description too, because I don't want to get copyright strike. This guy, amazing video. You know, I've watched 35 minutes of it. I don't watch something for 35 minutes, and I hate it. This is good. Like, this is nice. I've had a great time pointing out many misconceptions of that he said, many inconsistencies of what he said and what the other guy said. Much more on the other guy's part. Q-Tip. Q-Tip. Let's start calling him Q-Tip. Why not? But, I mean, yeah, I also gotta fucking link Q-Tip's channel. He probably won't see this. If he does, he's gonna copyright strike it. And I'm gonna make another video saying, oh, Mr. Q-Tip fucking copyright strike me because he's mad that he is a dumbass.
Second, many secular cosmologists actually reject the premise that the universe had to have come into...
Oh, yeah, to look less egg-shaped, kind of like Donald Trump in that freeze frame, put down the hair, brother. I promise you, you probably look so much better with your hair down. I mean, it's not up to me. It's up to you. I mean, if you have a wife, you have a girlfriend, that's all that matters. If she thinks you look attractive, that's fine. I don't care. But to me, if you want my touch on you, if you want my caressed hand on your belly button, put that hair down.
Into existence from pure nothingness. These cosmologists argue that actually some sort of material reality has always existed, and some...
Yeah, that... So, I think, in my second way that the universe could exist, I think that it has always existed. For the very simple reason, energy cannot be created or destroyed, thus it has always existed. And there's no rhyme or reason for it to exist. It just does because it needs to. Because if it didn't, nothing would. And that it's really hard to comprehend. It exists because it does, and there's no reason for it. And this sounds really dumb to somebody who thinks the universe has a purpose, but to me, the universe doesn't have a purpose. Like, it doesn't matter. Universe, if you died, universe will still keep going, still keep kicking, and after everyone has died, still keep kicking. The universe exists because it does. And if it didn't exist, it wouldn't exist. Thus, we wouldn't exist. Thus, we wouldn't have this conversation right now. There's no rhyme or reason that it does exist. And we just have to accept that it exists because it does. That I'm also sweating because I haven't turned on my fucking fan or nothing, dude. Don't look at my tits. Put these bad boys away. So, it exists because it does. If it didn't, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. This conversation is meaningless and means nothing. In the grand scale of things. In a million years, this does not mean anything. But this is not a million years from now. This is right now. So it does mean something right now. So, yeah, the universe exists because it does. And the third dimension exists because the fourth dimension exists. And fourth dimension can also be known as a fractal dimension. If I'm getting this all right. It's a fractal. So it goes on forever. Which means there's an infinite amount of third dimensions. Right?
Some sort of process within this infinite material reality eventually led to the Big Bang happening, which caused the universe to come into existence. I agree that if the universe really did pop into existence out of pure nothingness, it seems like something outside of material reality would have had to have caused that to happen. But if material reality has always existed, then you wouldn't necessarily need some sort of immaterial force to bring the universe into existence. Christians believe that God has always existed, and many atheists believe that reality has always existed. So both of these groups believe that something has always existed, whether that's God or that is material reality.
If your God has always existed, why does the universe not have to have always existed? Again, why would your God want the universe to exist in the first place? He has an infinite amount of angels that will do the worshipping for him. And it's a clear narcissistic trait to want to be worshipped. If you want to save people while actively creating people you know will not be saved for reasons that you chose to create them, you chose to make them that where they were faulty, you chose to create them to naturally stray away from you, and you made the punishment infinite torture and suffering based off of things they can't control. And you say that you love these things, and you say you want a relationship with these things that are completely inferior to you because you want to feel loved by something inferior to you. Narcissist. And at the same time, you punish them for being made the way they were, and you also punish them for creating them to do something that you knew they would do while having the ability to not create them, to literally save them from infinite torture and suffering because you love them. Yet, creating them, knowing they will suffer forever, their choice or not, is not love. Saying that that is love is lying to yourself and others. And if you're saying, oh, he's unknowable, his actions cannot be comprehended by our mortal minds. He made our mortal minds. He chose them to not be able to comprehend him, and he chose them to not be able to trust him because we can't comprehend him, which would make him immoral. It's all looping back together.
Whether the universe has a material cause or an immaterial cause is one of the most hotly debated topics in the field of cosmology. Personally, I don't think that right now we have conclusive proof as to whether or not the universe was created by a higher power, but let's say...
And if it was, it is not an all-knowing, all-loving God that has set up infinite torture and punishment for people who just don't think he exists. And set up an infinite heaven for people who do think he exists, absent of rhyme or reason to think he exists. Yet he punishes the people who are just like, I cannot say confidently that he exists, so I cannot confidently believe in him and worship him and wasted my life believing in him like a child just because people say that he exists. While having all of these things to say that I don't think he would be a good person if he did exist.
That we accept this premise that a higher power had to have
There's supposed to be more after that, but I completely lost my train of thought after that.
created the universe. If we
And that's
accept
good
this
enough.
premise, then why does this higher power have to be the Christian God? Why couldn't it be one of the other countless gods that humans have believed in throughout history? Why couldn't it be a god that humans just don't?
That God creates the universe and laws of nature. Then hands off with deism. That's interesting. So I cannot say that I believe in deism because I cannot demonstrate that a God exists. I can also not demonstrate that a God does not exist. Which doesn't mean I have to believe in a God. It just means I can and cannot believe in a God at the same time. It means I have 50-50 shot of if it exists. But this God would not punish me for not believing in him because hands off. Subsequently happens in nature due to natural processes.
Know about, or why could
and it's just a science experiment for him, and he's just like, oh, these cute little things are theorizing of my existence. And one of them got it right. That's really cool. Here, Mom. Here's my science project. Could even be one of those.
couldn't it be some sort of other immaterial transcendent force other than a god? Well, Q-Top's answer is that it has to be the Christian God because of the law of the principle of proportional
Oh
causality.
my fuck. Dude. I get it. You want to fuck a 12-year-old, but you're just trying to demonstrate, not even doing a good job at it, you're trying to demonstrate that a higher power has to exist without being able to quantify or demonstrate that it's the specific one that you think to exist.
Of principle proportional causality.
I think
So Q-Top cause that the law of proportional causality states that everything that is in the effect, the cause must also have.
Whatever is in the
that is directly saying that your God must have a cause. That is contradicting to your whole argument because your God says he's eternal. Either your God is lying or you are wrong. And I know for a fact you're not going to say your God is lying because you are too manipulated to think that.
The effect, the cause must also have.
If I make a cake, for example, the cake will be comprised of all of the ingredients that I use to make the cake. The effect, or the cake, will be made up of the cause, or the ingredients. Does that make sense? You can't make a cake without the ingredients to make a cake. I don't...
But for whatever reason, your universe starts out with an all-powerful, all-knowing, all-loving cake without being able to prove that that cake exists, but just having some way to prove that a cake that is just all-powerful exists. Then you just add on all-knowing and all-loving without being able to prove that that happens, that that's even real, and only having evidence to say that it's not. And you want people to believe this?
I don't think this is exactly analogous to cause and effect, but I'm just trying to explain the basic concept. And in the same way, Q-Top states that everything that exists in the universe, the effect, would also have to exist in God, the cause.
Please, for the love of fucking science, for the love of your mom, my mom, Muscle Man's mom, my mom, for the love of something or someone, can you just mention that by that logic, that God would also need a cause?
Now, when we look in the effect, we see relational properties, right? We see symbiotic relationships. You know what a symbiotic relationship is?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. And even human beings,
You treat them like they're stupid to further make yourself feel better about being stupid.
have this innate thing inside of us to have relationship with other human beings.
So he's also saying, okay, so he's using cause and effect plus morality, which both can happen naturally, except for cause and effect. Morality did happen naturally. I just proved that a little bit ago, saying humans who played nice and got along with a group survived longer and got to fuck longer than the people who did not have a group and were lone wolves. If humanity was strong enough, if our apes, if the apes of our time were strong enough to live on their own and to eat of their own and to hunt with by themselves and to mate by themselves and all of these things and to eat by themselves, we would not be as smart as we were. But if somehow we were, we would not give a shit if another human lived or died. We would only care if our children died, and after a certain point, we wouldn't even care if that happened. We only care of whether people die or live, because if a certain member of a group dies, that is lessening the chances of survival of all of the groups. So that, again, the groups that did not care of who lived and who died did not get to spread their genes of not caring of who lived and who died. And the ones who did care of who lived and who died and tried to stop it at any chance usually fucking survived longer. That is empathy based off of evolution. Based off of morality, I almost said that. Based off of evolution. Morality does not prove the existence of a god. It further proves of how it's not necessary in an atheistic worldview.
Our like ecosystem, everything in our ecosystem, everything in reality, you learn about ecosystems, everything has relationships with each other. There's things called
because the ones that didn't fucking died, and the ones that didn't die got stronger to prolong their own survival. But when you're weak enough to not be able to prolong your own survival on your own, you have to rely on the help of others. And if they did not do that, they would also die as well, because nobody would want to help them, and nobody would want to, they wouldn't, because they wouldn't want to help other people. So, because they did not have a sense of, oh, that probably sucks for them, I should probably help them, because they did not have that, they were not able to help them, and the people, when they were injured, were not able to help them. Therefore, they all fucking died. Meaning only the people who had morality got to live and get as smart as we were.
decomposers, and those things break things down, and there's scavengers, and there's right
That is the circle of life, based off of evolution. Things will eat other things' waste, because that's how that fucking works. If things did not eat each other's waste, then we would have a byproduct. Oh wait, soil! But we have plants that live in that. That is something living off of waste, because if that waste did not exist, they would not live. Creatures, creatures prefer spreading their genes more than living a long life. They don't care if they lived or died as long as their children lived. We see that with humans as well in dire situations.
everything comes together, and it all has relationships, and it's all functions, right? So what we see is, we see this effect, and just hear me out, we see relational properties, which shows us whatever caused this earth to exist must also have relational properties.
That's like saying that because God made trees, he must also photosynthesize. Because he made bones, he must also have bones. Because he made eyeballs, he must also have eyeballs. Which, is not true. At least, that's what your Bible says.
So, Q-Top's argument is that because we observe relationships in nature, and because everything that exists in nature must also exist in God, the only type of God that could exist is one that has relationships, and the only God that could possibly have relationships is the Christian God, because he exists as a trinity of three beings in one, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Hmm. So that makes sense at face value. If you look deeper, let me fucking hold on.
So, Q-Top's argument is that because we observe relationships in nature, and because everything that exists in nature must also exist in God.
So God can photosynthesize. God has the ears of an owl. God has the eyesight of an owl. God has the body of a snake, and somehow also the body of a bird, and somehow also the body of a mushroom. So, yeah, no, that brought up my current argument is that that's like saying if God created trees, he must also look, act, or have some quality of a tree when he doesn't have a body to begin with. And the only thing that does have a body is a dude who was created by two people fucking. By the way, the virgin birth did not happen. Virgin birth did not happen. It was added, 200 years after Jesus' birth because it fit a mistranslation of a prophecy to further induce people believing that he is actually the Messiah, to further keep people in control, and for the Catholic Church to also have more control.
The only type of God that could exist is one that has relationships, and the only God that could possibly have relationships is the Christian God,
Which is
because he
not even that
exists
true.
as a trinity of three beings in one, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
The Christian God is the only God that is capable of having relational properties.
No. No. So, if I create a God in my mind that has relational properties, does that mean that he has to exist? Same thing with my whole tree analysis. Does that mean that God can photosynthesize just because he created trees? I mean, that's like saying we can form relationships and everything has a relationship. Therefore, God, the Christian God, can only be the real God because that's the only God with a relationship, which is not true. I mean, the Greek gods have relationships with each other. Does that mean that the Greek gods are true? No. No.
Because the Christian God exists as one God in three different persons.
I think that this argument has a ton of holes in it. My
Thank
first
you.
thought when I heard this argument was, if the relationships that exist in nature must also exist in God, then why are the relationships that we observe in nature so different than the relationship that God shares with the members of his own Trinity? He mentioned
Parasites, cancer, any disease, natural disasters, decomposers taking over the cordyceps, I'll say, because people mostly know what cordyceps is. Uh, fungus that takes over the minds of bugs and animals and whatnot.
how in nature organisms have symbiotic relationships with each other, but in nature humans and animals and other organisms kill and destroy and eat each other all the time. The relationships that these organisms share with each other are totally different than the relationship that the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit shares with himself. The Father, Son, and Holy Spirit have a totally collaborative relationship with each other, whereas animals and humans often have antagonistic relationships with each other. So these relationships are totally different from each other, unless you believe that like sometimes God the Father decides to take a bite out of the Holy Spirit. So if Q-Top's argument is that everything in the effect must also exist in the cause,
whatever is in the effect, the cause must also have.
This is false because we observe a bunch of things in the effect that do not exist in the cause. That is, unless you think that sometimes God chooses to kill and eat himself. To me, I feel like the relationships that the Greek gods share with each other are much more similar to human and animal relationships than the relationships that God's Trinity.
Holy shit! Did I not point out the Greek gods? I'm so smart.
Trinity shares with itself. Greek gods would like fight with each other and try to screw each other over in the same way that.
Dude, I genuinely think that the Greek gods are a more plausible idea, despite them, living on Mount Everest or Mount Olympus. Despite them living on Mount Olympus, they are a more plausible idea for a God to exist. That's a more plausible idea than an all-knowing, all-loving God.
Animals and humans do, whereas you never see that with the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So I think we can safely say that if Q-Top's argument is that literally everything that exists in the effect must also exist in the cause, this argument is false. But it seemed to me like the argument that Q-Top was making might be incomplete, so I looked up where this principle of proportional causality comes from, and apparently it originally comes from Thomas Aquinas. And Thomas Aquinas' argument wasn't that literally everything that exists in the effect also exists in the cause. His argument was that the perfections of God exist in both the effect and the cause. So basically all of the perfections on earth exist in God, but all of the imperfections on earth don't exist in God.
Then why would he make it so imperfect? And I know people are just going to say Adam and Eve, but I'll go back to the choice of two people should never affect the lives of billions, especially when not a single one of them had a say in the matter at all. Your God would know this, so why would he make it so imperfect? It just doesn't make sense. I mean, yeah, I know that's not going to really bring home my point that it just doesn't make sense. I'm doing what that guy says. I'm doing what Q-Tip does. I'm doing what Q-Tip does. But still, I don't think that makes too much sense.
To me, claiming that all of the good things on earth come from God, but all of the bad things on earth don't come from God feels like special pleading to ignore the problem of evil, which is the question of if God is a perfect, all-loving God, then why does he allow so much unnecessary pain and suffering? Perfect, all-loving God.
So, the problem of evil is really fucking good. Now, I do not specifically focus on the problem of evil. I focus on the problem of infinite morality, if I can even call that. I know that I have the ultimate question that only ends in people either saying that God is not good, God is a liar, or God does not exist, or he's untrustable. It's the only question that I could think of that actually has no answer in the favor of the Christians. And a lot of people sum it up as the problem of evil, but it does not specifically say worldly evil. It's divine evil based. It's okay if you really want to fucking hear it. I don't think anybody does. I don't think anybody's going to even see this. But if God is all knowing, all powerful, and all loving, it is not okay for him to create people knowing that if he does, they will suffer forever by their decisions or not. That is not okay. That's like saying it's okay for a mother to let her child do drugs and alcohol and ruin their lives because it's their choice to. That's not okay, especially when that God has all the power to not let that happen. Or has all the power to prove that they exist and they just haven't. Like me, I would ask, beg, literally beg on my hands and knees for a sign that I could not dispute, and I got nothing. I had nothing, and it was tough to accept the fact that God was not real, the Christian God was not real, but I fucking did it. It was, after that, it opened my eyes so much. But it even at some point, it became a joke, like, hey, I'd be with my atheist friends or my non-Christian friends, and I'd be like, if God is real, X will happen. And it never happened. And it was funny. Like, people would laugh. It was funny. So, throughout any of those times, he could have just made one of those things happen and saved both of my soul and my friends' souls from eternal damnation by just giving that sign. But he didn't. He didn't. When an all-good God who actually wants a relationship with me despite removing all evidence that he exists and allowing me to believe that he doesn't, and not trying to prove to me that he doesn't, that he does. I lost my train of thought. But you see my point. If God exists, and he's all-knowing, all-loving, and all-powerful, you cannot say that he loves us if he creates people knowing that if he does, they will burn for eternity, while all the time having the power either to not create them, or to prove that he exists, to save them from eternal suffering. So, problem of evil is good. The problem of evil is really good. I don't think it can be answered, because there is no moral justification for a 5-year-old getting leukemia, because the suffering of one does not justify the saving of many, especially when the same result can come from without literally sacrificing the life of a 5-year-old.
Then why does he allow so much unnecessary pain and suffering in the world? But okay, let's just accept the premise that only good things come from God, and these relational properties that animals and humans share are inherently good for some reason. Why is the Christian God the only God who could ever possibly have these relational properties? Q-Top says it's because the Christian God exists as a trinity of 3 beings in one who all share relationships with each other.
But the Christian God exists as one God in 3 persons.
But why couldn't there just be multiple gods that have relationships with each other? Q-Top says
Exactly.
that there can only be one God because God doesn't need help.
There can only be one God that exists in reality because God does not need help.
But
that is one of the dumbest arguments. Oh, okay, so this person that I can't prove exists can only be the one person that is controlling the universe or has made the universe, and he doesn't need help because I say he doesn't, and because he said he doesn't, despite me not being able to prove that he exists. So you have to believe in him because of this very loose reason that this guy just fucking disproved. But let's just assume that it's okay. Either way, it doesn't fucking work.
if God doesn't need help, then why does he exist as a trinity instead of existing as one being? And
I didn't even
why
fucking
does
think
God
about
need...
that. So why does he exist as the Holy Spirit and God? I understand why he did Jesus, which, again, is still horrible narcissistic manipulation to over-exaggerate his death by making us kill him. It would be much, because he somehow, for whatever reason, cannot break the one rule that he set when he's done that before, and he's also all-powerful, and he also can just be like, oh, yeah, I'll just forgive myself and get rid of that rule, because I'm all-powerful, I can do that. He had to show up in human form when he could very easily just show up as a sacrificial lamb. But no, that wouldn't be dramatic enough, and narcissists thrive in drama.
to exist as 3 beings? Why couldn't there be a God that existed as 2 beings that had a relationship with each other? Why couldn't God just exist as one being and have a relationship with himself? Would that not satisfy there being relational properties? I would say that I have relational properties, like there's a relationship between my brain and my body that allows my body to function. And even if we accept that God needs to be a trinity of 3 gods in one for some reason, there could just be some other trinity God that exists out there that we don't know about. And on top of everything, I don't think we even need to accept this principle of proportional causality in the first place, because when we observe causes and effects in nature, it's not like the causes only give the perfect parts of themselves to the effect. So I don't think we even need to logically accept this principle that God would only give his perfections to reality. So, in my opinion, this argument that the Christian God is the only God who could ever possibly exist because in nature we observe relational properties is not convincing whatsoever. And if we're going to take Q-Top's word for it that we need to accept his
Q-tip.
version of Christianity, which says it's okay to have sex with children and marry children and beat your children if they don't go to church, then I think he has done an absolutely terrible job at putting forth a convincing argument as to why his version of God is the only one that could possibly exist. Recently, Q-Top has moved on from talking about why Christianity should be forced onto children, and he's moved on to explaining why he thinks atheism atheism has been debunked, and he defends this using the presuppositional transcendental argument for the existence of God.
What the fuck does that even mean? Look, I'm not a debate bro, because I don't use presuppositional transcendental nope, transcendental, what the fuck? Transcendental, transcendental, I think transcendental argument. I don't know what the fuck that means, I could barely pronounce it, right? But despite not knowing what the fuck that is, I could probably disprove it with basic logic and reasoning skills that I've acquired over like 20 plus years of my life.
Basically claiming that in order for us to even reason, we need to presuppose that God exists because God is the source of reason. I could get into all of my issues with this argument, but I think this video is already long enough. Just take it from me that I do not think he has disproven atheism, because his argument that atheism has been disproven presupposes that God exists. And he claims that this presupposition is justified because rejecting this presupposition leads to a...
Okay, well, if atheism is disproven, that means that there is a God, and then you would have to prove that your specific interpretation of this God exists, which you can't, and which I've already said is practically impossible while keeping him as a morally all good and all just God. But anyway, so yeah, that would prove that there would be a God if atheism was proven to be false, because that's the definition of atheism, is that a God does not exist. Therefore, if it was false, a God would exist. But maybe we're dancing around something that is just something that we made up.
Performative contradiction,
Probably.
which I
That's
disagree
probably
with,
what's
but I'm
gonna
not
be
going to
the
get
thing.
into that here. If you want to hear his arguments, I guess go check out his live stream, but I highly recommend not giving this dude any more attention unless he fucking apologizes for the insane shit that he has said about children. To end out the video, I just want to reiterate that I have absolutely nothing against Christians or Christianity. I actually have been sort of considering myself a Christian lately.
I have nothing against Christians. I do not care that they have this belief. I do not respect the belief at all whatsoever. I can respect that it can bring people to be a nicer person, despite them not needing it to be a good person. You do not need God to be a good person. I don't have a God, and I would like to say I'm a good person. You don't need a God to be a good person. I do understand that it can make bad people good, but all it is doing is bringing the very obvious morals that they already had but did not show or express to the surface. It does not mean that there is a all-powerful, all-loving being that would contradict everything we know about science by bringing magic into reality.
Growing up, I was raised Christian, and then I considered myself like an agnostic atheist for many years, but recently I've sort of returned to Christianity, but in a way that most Christians wouldn't consider me a real Christian.
Which is probably why he has not made any of the points that I have. Like, he's almost accepted. Well, no, he's not accepted. He's disproven that thing without outright disproving that a God exists at all. He just disproved that that version of his God is wrong. And I took it further by saying the version of the Christian God is wrong altogether. So, my headphones are about to die too. So we'll go ahead and wrap it
I've
up.
chosen to believe that God exists because it makes me feel good, but I don't believe that the Bible came from God. It just doesn't make any sense to me that an all-perfect, all-loving God would write a book that justifies things like slavery.
Yes. So, thinking that this God exists brings you good feelings, that's okay. But believing the Bible is the word of this perfect being can easily snowball into thinking that it's okay to do all of these things. Anyone who beats a male or female, beats their male or female slave with a rod must be punished if the slave dies as a direct result. They should be punished by beating another adult human being. You understand that? Not because it's a slave. Like, they should be punished because they are beating another adult that God created. So, it's fucking something. If you guys like this content, because fuck, I certainly do. I love debates. Love debates. Not debates in general. I love talking about Christianity and religions in general, especially religions that involve an all-knowing, all-good, all loving, and all-powerful God. So, yeah, I kind of thought I should probably, now that I'm really thinking about it, I probably should have put on a shirt. Probably should have put on a shirt. Nobody's gonna see this. It's 2 hours and 30 minutes. This is practically a solo podcast. This is how long I would do a stream too, about 2 hours and 30 minutes. This would be like a whole stream just watching this one video. That's crazy. That's actually crazy. I mean, this is the unedited version. I know I reinstated a lot of points that I probably shouldn't have, and I just said a bunch of shit that was probably pretty useless. And I said a bunch of shit that I just already said already. So, I've been talking for quite a while. I want to go make me some more coffee because I'm tired. Tired. But yeah, I will see you all next time. And I'll just upload this video. I'll upload this video as it is. Just want to say a special thanks to anybody who made it to this point. I could go on for like 20 more minutes of just talking about how grateful I am if anybody actually sees this. If you spend the time to watch through this whole thing, thank you. Thank you. It really means so much to me. Genuinely, it means so much. It's a blessing, for lack of a better word. It's a blessing to not only be able to do this, but to have somebody watch it all the way to the end, if there is. And maybe some point there will be. And if you have, thank you. I mean, I know I've just been yapping and nobody's gonna care, but it's important to me that maybe somebody hears this. Teared up. Ugh. I've had something in my eye like the past 2 days. It fucking sucks. Watch. If God is real, this thing in my eye will go away. Didn't fucking work. Oh. Now, an easy way to be like, oh, well, you did it. He did answer your prayer because you'll eventually get it out. I will eventually get it out. If I didn't pray to him, I would have gotten it out anyway. Even if. No. No, I was going to say, even if it did come out by itself, that is not proof of your specific God, but I was praying to a specific God, so if that did happen, that would be evidence. Not concrete, not even logical evidence that this thing actually exists, but it would be evidence nonetheless. If anybody thinks the worldwide flood happened, please go back to basic geology. Go back to basic geology class. There would be a loop, a seabed, if you will, all the way around the planet. There would be millions of fossils found in one period that were all land animals. And then after the fact, there would be a ton more sea life animals that would be fossilized. And if you say, oh, there was fossils found on mountains, they're millions of years old, every single last one of them. And then you'd be like, oh, there's that site in Turkey. There hasn't been one piece of wood, not been one nail, not been anything ever found there that was man-made at all throughout its entire discovery. It's a natural formation, despite it being a lucky one. The Earth is fucking massive. If you don't think there's one natural formation that looks like a boat, because we are pattern recognizing minds and we would be like, oh, that kind of looks like a boat. If we weren't here, that would be there anyway. It's a natural formation. Every credible archaeologist says that it's a natural formation. The person who discovered it and said that it was Noah's Ark and advertised it as being Noah's Ark was a businessman who had no background in archaeology and who only got people who did not have a background in archaeology, or the people who did and had an intense religious psychosis, I guess you could say, an intense belief in Christianity, to come and look at it. To basically try to convince themselves and the public that it was this actual thing. And the metal detectors they used could not search within a few inches into the ground. Understand that? Could not search a foot into the ground. Like, and the waves, the fucking microwave things that they used, I think it was either faked, like the things they that showed up on the microwave thing was faked, or nothing showed up and they just didn't do it, or it could only penetrate like 2 feet. Again, everything and every credible archaeologist says that that's a natural formation. If you are going to go against people who have studied for 20 times as long as you have, if not more, in a field that you barely understand, because again, you believe that giants exist, you obviously have bigger problems. Now, again, I said I could go on for like 20 minutes, but worldwide flood did not happen. If anybody who is a credible scientist believed that it did happen, that would be a problem. A problem. You understand that? That, like, literally, that is a credible scientist who leads the frontier of our world, who also believes in magic. That's a fucking problem. A big problem. And you're like, how is it magic? How is it magic? Where'd the water go? Well, that was God. You have to prove he exists. Well, then it still happened. You have to prove that, and there's no evidence to say that it did. And if it did happen, there would be mountains of evidence to say that it did. Again, a ring of seabed all around the planet that does not exist. Of one time period, and millions of fossils that don't exist as well. Millions of sea fossils that don't exist as well. You know, what else? What else? There would be a boat somewhere that also does not exist. There would be records of the Chinese completely being eradicated from existence, and people in Egypt being completely eradicated from existence because they were not on the boat, and somehow you would have to get, every species of animal back on the planet, everywhere in 40 years, just everywhere back on the planet exactly where they should be, with no evidence that they were ever gone for any amount of time, while also somehow creating a wall around China that they just wouldn't mention, and also a wall around Egypt that they just wouldn't mention, to make sure that the parts of Egypt that maintain constant dryness, despite there supposedly being a worldwide flood going through that area at the time, that just don't exist, and to maintain that. And you'd also need to make sure that the Chinese don't know that there's a whole ass worldwide flood going on at the time of their existence, to make sure that there's no record of it, and to make sure that they are still alive. Because if that did actually happen, then they would be dead. And they went uninterrupted during that time. So did Egypt. And so did any other fucking civilization that lived on. But we probably don't have documentation of it because most of them either didn't know how to write, did not have a written language, or did not have a language that we understood. Holy shit, I could yap on for a million years. But this video is way long enough. It's been 2 hours and 40 minutes. This is how long a good stream would be. So, again, thank you anyone who watches this. Worldwide flood did not happen. Didn't happen. Your God said it did. Your God's all knowing. Why would he lie to you? Because he doesn't exist. Simple as that. Um, also, why would he lie to you if that didn't happen? To only drive people further away from him, yet also punishing them for that, with eternal suffering and pain, because he loves you. Oh my god, dude, I need to do more of these. This is so fun. This is so fun. I genuinely don't understand how anyone believes in Christianity. Oh wait, makes them feel good. Cool, it makes you feel good. But if ignorance of basic facts and knowledge makes you feel good, and believing that it's okay to fuck a 12-year-old makes you feel good, and if you feeling good makes you reject the frontier of what we know and holds back the frontier of science, like it does, it's a problem. It's a problem for me and for you as well. If you are genuinely stopping scientists from having meaningful debates against themselves and against the public, because you still will refuse to think that a worldwide flood did not happen, that is stopping the frontier of science from doing things that actually mean the betterment of humanity for you, your children, and their grandchildren. It's a problem when it gets to that point, and it has gotten to that point, and it was at that point when we were killing people for being witches. It's a damaging idea if you follow it wholeheartedly. I'm not saying it's wrong to be a Christian. I'm saying it's wrong to be a diehard Christian. I'm saying it's wrong to believe the Bible without question. I'm saying it's wrong to fully believe the Bible. And I hate to say it, if it's wrong to fully believe the Bible, I don't think you can call your God a perfect God unless you leave out parts. I genuinely wish that an all-knowing, all-loving God exists, but it's only possible if there's more than one of them. You can say the devil, but you ignore the fact that he's all-knowing and all-powerful, and he allows the devil to do this while watching it happen, while knowing it would have happened, while not stopping it, while having the power to do it. That's like the devil holding the gun, God pulling the trigger. Or God holding the gun, the devil pulling the trigger, while God had the power to stop it, knew it would happen before it did, and allowed it to happen. You cannot, again, I could go on for days and days and days and days and days and days. So I don't have a problem with Christians. My mom is a Christian. Most of my friends were Christians until they had a debate with me. And many people I know who are good and honest people are Christians. Being a Christian does not make you bad. Being a Bible worshiper makes you bad. Worshipping and following everything the Bible says makes you bad. Everything. Down to the T, following everything it says makes you bad. If following the word of a perfect being makes you bad, you have to start to question how perfect that being is. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Still, believe in God if it makes you warm and fuzzy. That's okay. But don't believe in a God if it makes it warm and fuzzy for you and horrible, nasty, and painful for everybody else around you. Not just painful, but emotionally damaging as well. It's not okay for you, it's not okay for the government to allow you to do that, and it's not okay for people to allow you to do that. If they actually truly cared about you, they would tell you what you're doing is wrong, despite it coming from the word of a perfect being. To end it off, anybody who does not want you to think will never be your friend. Love you all. Thank you guys so much for watching, if anyone made it here. Christian, Buddhist, Muslim, or not. Thank you. It does mean a lot for somebody to watch me for 3 hours. I mean, I doubt that anybody will, but if you do, drop it in the comments. I'll literally fuck you. Literally fuck you. Balls deep. I don't care. The Bible said it would be okay if you're above 12. So if you're above 12, man or woman, you'd be fine. Oh my god. So yeah, that's gonna be it. I have a hard time with ending these things because I just don't know when to stop talking. But yeah, that's gonna be it. I mean, I'm not gonna be editing this. I will edit it if I get around to it. I probably won't. I already have another video I need to edit anyway, so I probably won't get to this. But yeah. If you made it to the end and you liked it and you want to see more of this content, please tell me. I will do more. I'll do more if you tell me. If you like the way I do debates, I will have live active debates, by the way. If you want me to actually debate somebody, I will do live active debates. And you'll definitely see a lot of this point of, the ultimate question. If God is all knowing, all powerful, how does he create people who he knows will suffer forever at his hand if he creates them? Their choice or not. You'll definitely see a lot of that. Because that is pretty much my trump card. Because it cannot be answered. I've talked to priests. I would really hope, if he exists, I would like to talk to God himself. Like, I would want him to explain that to me. Because if he truly is loving and whatever, I'd love to experience that love. But the thing is, with the way he stands, he doesn't have that love. That love is a placebo from the people who believe in him. So, if he does exist, I'd love to feel that love. And I know people are just gonna be like, you can feel that love if you just follow him. Like, I need a reason to follow him. If you can't answer the moral question that I propose, and everybody's gonna say free will, your choice or not, you should not be allowed to do drugs and alcohol by your mom if she knew that you were gonna do drugs and alcohol, knowing that she couldn't stop you when she can. That's like knowing a kid, if you have this kid, it will go off a cliff and die and suffer forever at some point. Knowing when it will happen, knowing you can prevent it, knowing even if it is their choice, it's still not okay. So sure, say free will all you fucking want. It's still not okay. It's not justifiable. You'll definitely see a lot of that point. It's basically my trump card. But you'll also see me defending or me defending other points. You'll see me attacking other points and much more. Thanks for the tech talk. Oh my goodness, I need to do more of these if you guys care.